After the divorce, my ex-wife couldn't believe I married the most beautiful girl in town until I had just had half a year's salary deducted, and before I could recover from the shock, the message on my phone screen made my heart beat faster. Baby, don't go to sleep yet. Wash up and wait for me in bed. Her tone was playful and seductive. I was about to reply, but suddenly froze. Could she have other intentions? Everything seemed to be leading me to another ending from which there was no turning back. Just when I was about to wait for her to arrive, unexpectedly, I was severely blocked. Am I her plaything? Or is it that she just wants to use me as her tool? What does all this mean? Part 2. Chapter 38. Are you unhappy because I stole your man? My name is Lee Zihang. After breaking up with Song Yi, I continued to work as usual, but I found myself becoming a little different. When I was not busy at work, I would secretly take out my phone and send her a message. In the past, Song Yi always sent me messages frequently, but I always responded selectively or even ignored her messages directly. But now, my relationship with her is different. Whenever I see a message from her, no matter what I am busy with, I will reply to her immediately. Even if I am in a meeting or in the office, I will find an excuse to sneak to the bathroom and secretly reply to her message. One time, my colleagues saw me running to the bathroom frequently and joked with me that I must have kidney problems to keep going there. Although I knew they were joking, I was in no mood to refute them. After all, my mind was now completely on Song Yi. At lunchtime, everyone went to the cafeteria to eat, and I took the opportunity to sneak into Anya's office. When she saw me come in, her face instantly turned cold. "What are you doing here?" Anya asked in an unhappy tone. I was a little confused and quickly explained. "Didn't you tell me to have lunch with you every day from now on?" "Oh, that was in the past. Now that you have a girlfriend, you come over to have dinner with me. Aren't you afraid that she will be jealous? Or do you want to have your fill while still keeping an eye on what's in the pot?" Anya sneered and bluntly exposed my intentions. I frowned, thinking that she had a point. After all, it was not good to continue eating alone with her like this. So I turned around and prepared to leave. "Where are you going?" Anya asked anxiously when she saw me turning around. "I think you're right. I shouldn't have dinner with you behind my girlfriend's back." I turned around and said in a firm tone. Anya was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect me to answer so directly. Before she could react, I'd already walked out of the office. "Bastard," she yelled in exasperation, and then threw a 5-digit pin hard at the door, making a crisp sound. Just then, there was a knock on the office door. Anya, who was originally angry, regained her composure in an instant. She smiled contemptuously. "What do you want to do now?" "President, the lunch you ordered is here." The female secretary walked in with 2 thermal bags in her hands. Seeing that the person who came in was not me, but her secretary, Anya's smile immediately disappeared without a trace. The female secretary saw her face change and suddenly became nervous, not knowing how to respond. "What's going on?" Anya's low voice came. The female secretary replied cautiously. "Bosson, your pen cost 27,000 yuan, and Li Ziheng's internship salary is only 4,500 yuan. Are you going to deduct half a year's salary from him?" Anya sneered and said, "That's right, just deduct it. Isn't it right not to compensate for the damage to the company's property?" She said with a cold look in her eyes. The female secretary nodded immediately. "Okay, Mr. N, I'll tell Li Ziheng right away." Soon, the female secretary found me and told me that my salary had been deducted for half a year. I couldn't help but roll my eyes when I heard the news. When everyone was eating, they saw my expression and cast sympathetic glances at me. Isn't this too miserable? I've only been working for less than half a month, and my salary for half a year has been deducted. It's such a blessing from heaven, but it can be so miserable. Isn't this the method used by capitalists? They are completely ruthless and willful. These words made me even more depressed. I was absent-minded in my afternoon work. My manager Wang Chung saw that I was in a low mood and called me to his office to comfort me. "Ziheng, it's okay. It's common to make small mistakes at work. Don't take it too seriously." Manager Wang patted my shoulder, his eyes full of sympathy. I smiled and responded, "Thank you, manager. It's okay. I will pay attention to it. If you have any difficulties in the future, feel free to contact me anytime," he said. "Okay, thank you, manager." I felt a little warm in my heart, but I still rejected his kindness. After all, I can handle these small matters. After returning to my workstation, I went to the bathroom and couldn't help but tell Song Yi about this. Although I don't care about money, I can't help feeling a little aggrieved that my salary for half a year was inexplicably deducted. As a result, Song Yi's reaction was totally unexpected to me. She laughed so hard on the other end of the phone. Huh? Did your head get caught in the door? You've only been on the job for less than half a month, and your salary has been deducted for half a year? You're gonna have to eat dirt from now on, right? I was speechless. Are you gloating over other people's misfortunes? No, I just couldn't help laughing, she said mischievously. You really are. I was a little angry and simply hung up the phone. But not long after, Song Yi sent a message. Don't be angry, baby. Isn't it just half a year's salary? You can let her deduct whatever she wants. I will support you in the future. After seeing this message, I felt much better and immediately replied to her. Am I a gigolo? Will you get tired of me one day and kick me out? She replied quickly. That depends on how you perform in the future. After we chatted for a while on Fission, I was ready to get off work. Back at the rental house, I cooked dinner and wanted to invite her to eat together, but when I called her, she said she was on the phone. I had no choice but to make an appointment another day. After dinner, I took a walk downstairs in the community to digest the food. However, Song Yi and Anya were already sitting in a Western restaurant. They looked at each other and seemed a little unhappy. Sister, aren't you happy to know that I'm no longer single? Why are you still looking so sullen? Is it because I stole the man you liked? Song Yi said in a teasing tone, holding a glass of red wine. Anya responded coldly. You are willing to put yourself in a difficult position just to get revenge on me. Is it worth it? It doesn't matter whether it's worth it or not. What matters is that the man you like is already my boyfriend. Song Yi responded disdainfully. The two of them confronted each other, and Anya finally left coldly, leaving behind one last sentence. You are not from the same world. Separate early and don't get too deeply involved. Snap. The red wine glass shattered. After Anya left, Song Yi angrily took out her phone and sent me a message. Baby, don't go to sleep yet. Wash up and wait for me in bed. Chapter 39. 500,000. Buy her for a year. At 10 o'clock in the evening, I lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. In my mind, the intimate scene between Song Yi and me kept appearing, and then I couldn't help but think of the secretary telling me that my salary was deducted for half a year. I sat up from the bed suddenly, frowning and muttering in a low voice. No. What happened to Anya? Just as I was in a state of confusion, the screen of my phone lit up and a ding sounded. I picked up the phone and saw a message from Song Yi on the screen. Baby, don't sleep yet. Wash up and wait for me in bed. After reading this message, I was in a bad mood and immediately recovered my good mood. Although I had already taken a shower, since she asked me to wash and wait for her, I naturally did not dare to neglect it. I immediately went to the bathroom and took a shower again. After taking a shower, I changed into clean clothes and replaced the sheets and blankets with new ones. As for the sheet with the marks left by her, I carefully folded it and put it in a vacuum bag for preservation. After packing everything, I lay on the bed, waiting for Song Yi's arrival with great anticipation. However, I waited for more than an hour, but the doorbell never rang. I became impatient, and my expectation gradually turned into disappointment. Finally, I felt sleepy and fell asleep unconsciously. The next morning, the first thing I did when I woke up was to check my phone, but there were no missed calls or even a message. Feeling a little uneasy, I immediately sent a message to Song Yi, but the system showed a red exclamation mark. She blocked me? I was a little stunned. I had never expected this. Last night, she clearly asked me to get clean and wait for her. So how come I was blocked when I woke up? In order to confirm whether the doorbell was broken, I went to the door and rang the doorbell, but the doorbell was not broken. A sense of loss instantly filled my heart, and I was in a low mood all day. My colleagues at the company saw that I was in a bad mood and thought that I was upset about having my salary deducted yesterday. I hardly spoke to anyone the whole morning. That day, I kept checking my phone more than 50 times from morning to afternoon, hoping to see a message or call from Song Yi, but she never responded. Finally, I had to accept the fact that Song Yi had played me. I thought of a saying on the internet, what you can't get is always the best. Looking at the glaring red exclamation mark on the Fission interface, I couldn't help but curse in a low voice. Bah, scumbag. In the next 3 days, I completely accepted the reality that Song Yi had abandoned me. My attention was completely shifted to work. Because of my serious attitude, Manager Wang Chung specially praised me and said that he would help me apply for early regularization at the end of the month. This comforted me a little, but the emptiness in my heart still could not be filled. Today, I got off work an hour later than usual. As soon as I came out of the employee elevator, I ran into Anya, who had also just gotten off work. She came out of the CEO's special elevator and walked past me coldly without any reaction when she saw me. I was stunned for a moment and thought her reaction was a little strange, but then I thought about it and realized that the issue of salary was no longer important. The company belongs to me, so what's the big deal whether I get paid or not? When I walked out of the company building, I saw Anya getting into a car with a strange man. The man was wearing a custom-made suit, an expensive watch, and driving a limited edition red Aston Martin. The car was so impressive that people couldn't help but take a second look. Although I know that it is normal for Anya, as a senior executive of the company, to have contact with such a wealthy and prominent person, but when I saw this scene, I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. In order to stop myself from thinking too much, I decided to go to the bar to kill time. After arriving at the bar, I ordered a signature cocktail and sat at the bar to drink it silently. I picked up my phone, thinking about whether to send a message to Song-yi, but I held back every time. At this time, a girl came over and chatted with me. "Handsome guy alone?" I smiled and nodded slightly. "Yes, alone." "Then let's have a drink together?" She looked to be about 20 years old. Although her face was mature under the heavy makeup, I could tell her real age. I nodded. "Whatever you want, it's my treat." The girl ordered the same cocktail as me, and we started chatting. From her words, I learned that her name was Jasmine. She was a sophomore at Yunhai Film Academy, and her family was not well off. She didn't tell me her real name, but her words made me feel that she was not like those frivolous girls in the bar. "Brother, are you heartbroken?" Jasmine suddenly asked. I smiled awkwardly. "It's not a broken heart. At most, I was played by someone." Puff! Jasmine couldn't help laughing. Seeing that I was a little disappointed, she quickly comforted me. "It's okay. You're a grown man. You won't suffer any loss." I smiled bitterly. "But this is my first time." Her smile widened. "What about her?" "It's her first time too," I said honestly. Jasmine rolled her eyes. "Then you're making a profit, right?" I sighed. "That's true, but I'm not that kind of person. I wanted to be responsible for her, but unfortunately." Jasmine looked at me with a look of admiration and reluctance in her eyes. Her words became gentler, and she gradually began to confide her thoughts to me. As they chatted, she seemed to lose control of her emotions. She lowered her head and asked with red eyes, "Brother, do you have money?" I frowned, and I realized something in my heart. "What do you want to say?" She looked at me cautiously and finally mustered up the courage to say, "Actually, I came to the bar today to find someone to support me, but I'm afraid of meeting a bad person." I didn't reject her directly, but asked calmly, "Aren't you afraid that I am also a bad person?" She lowered her head, but her eyes were still clear. "Brother, the way you look at me is very pure. I feel that you're not a bad person." I looked at her, silent for a while, and finally said, "How much do you want?" Jasmine was stunned for a moment, as if she didn't expect me to ask so directly. She said nervously, "Is 500,000 okay?" I nodded. "Sure, but what do I get?" She whispered, "I can stay with my brother for a year and satisfy you at any time." I took out my cell phone and transferred 500,000 yuan to her. When I saw the notification of the arrival of the money in her bank card, Jasmine's expression froze for a few seconds, but she quickly regained her composure and did not regret it. After I paid the bill, I looked at her with a smile and said, "The money has been transferred to you. Now, you should come with me." Jasmine bit her lip and nodded. "Okay." Chapter 40, If you keep on talking, I will fire you. Walking out of the bar, the summer evening breeze blew on my face, making me feel much more refreshed, as if the drunkenness was blown away by the breeze. My mind gradually became clear. I picked up my phone and waved to stop a taxi. I sat in the passenger seat, as usual. Jasmine hesitated a little, but finally opened the back door and got in with me. We didn't speak during the whole trip. Outside the car window, the neon lights of the city flickered, while inside the car there was a silent atmosphere, as if every detail was reminding us that this evening was unusual. After getting off the bus, I walked in front, and Jasmine lowered her head and followed me silently. When I arrived at my rental house, I changed my shoes and went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. After I came out of the shower, Jasmine was still standing in the room, looking at a loss, standing quietly with a red face, and her eyes were a little evasive. I felt a little sorry for her appearance. "Aren't you going to take a shower?" I looked at her, sitting on the bed, with a hint of playfulness in my tone. She shuddered slightly, and finally couldn't help but go into the bathroom. She showered very slowly, and after half an hour, she came out wrapped in a bath towel. Without the thick makeup on her face, she looked more real than she did in the bar. I looked at her. She had a standard oval face, eyelashes that looked like they were drawn, delicate features, healthy wheat-colored skin, and slightly upturned lips, like a pure schoolgirl. She is about 1.65 meters tall and thin, but some parts of her body are unexpectedly plump, giving her a feeling of being both slender and seductive. I glanced at her unconsciously and saw that her palms were sweating and her face was slightly red. "It's getting late, hurry up," I urged her with a smile on my face. She was obviously a little flustered. Although she was quite brave in the bar just now, her mind went blank when facing me. She didn't react at all. I didn't say anything more. I turned over and pressed her down on the bed, lowered my head, and kissed her lips. Her lips were sweet, but she had no experience, just like a puppet, motionless. Just when I was about to go a step further, Jasmine finally plucked up the courage to speak. "Brother, this is my first time too. So, can you be gentler?" First time? I was stunned. My heart was shocked, and I woke up instantly. She nodded gently, her face as red as an apple, her eyes closed, not daring to look at me. "I'm a little tired tonight. You can go to the next room to sleep." I took a deep breath, suppressed my inner desire, turned over, and sat up. She was stunned for a moment, opened her eyes, and looked at me with confusion in her eyes. "I have to get up early tomorrow, so hurry over and don't disturb my rest," I urged impatiently. Jasmine did not refute, but nodded slightly, got up, wrapped in a bath towel, and walked to the next room. The sound of her closing the door was almost inaudible. I lay on the bed, smiling bitterly. I thought I could do whatever I wanted tonight, but Jasmine's first time made me feel a little hesitant. Her innocence and ignorance made me ask myself what I was doing. After taking a few deep breaths, I finally calmed down, closed my eyes, and with the effect of alcohol, I quickly fell asleep. The next morning, when I woke up, I found that Jasmine had already prepared breakfast. She was wearing the same outfit she wore in the bar yesterday, a tight white t-shirt and ultra-short denim shorts, with an apron tied around her waist and a freshly served bowl of porridge in her hands. She stood by the dining table shyly, looking a little reserved. I sat down and started eating, but when I saw she wasn't moving, I asked in confusion, "Aren't you going to eat?" She lowered her head and said in a soft voice, "I will wait until my brother finishes eating before I eat." I couldn't help but laugh. "Do you think you were a maid in ancient times?" I knocked on the table. "Hurry up, let's eat together and then go back to school." Jasmine seemed relieved and nodded. "Yeah." After dinner, she quickly cleaned up the dishes and cleaned the kitchen carefully. When she came out, I was no longer in the living room, but there was a note pressed by a water cup on the table, as well as a key and an access card. Jasmine picked up the note and saw that it said, "I like Sichuan cuisine. Come back early after school to cook." I knew she had no money, so I gave her these and didn't plan to keep her for too long. She looked at the note, and although she was reluctant, she still put away the key and prepared to go to school as planned. Today is Friday, the last day of work this week. Li Ziheng is not like other workers who want time to pass quickly. In the morning, after I finished processing the remaining customer information of the company, I went to the president's office to find Anya. She was discussing work with her secretary. When she saw me come in, she raised her eyebrows and said unhappily, "Can't you see I'm busy? Get out." I was stunned, then retreated and closed the door. After standing outside for a few minutes, the female secretary came out with a dusty face. She saw me still at the door and gently reminded me, "Mr. N is in a bad mood today. If there is nothing important, it is best not to go in." I smiled and nodded, then pushed the door open and walked in. "Don't you know you have to knock before entering my office?" Anya frowned, looking displeased. I raised my eyebrows slightly and sneered. "If you say that again, I will fire you. Do you believe it?" Anya's expression softened instantly. She stood up with a smile and asked me to sit down. "Master, do you have something to talk to me about?" I sat in her seat, casually opened a folder, clicked on a photo, and suddenly a bunch of pictures of handsome 2D guys appeared on the screen. I calmly closed the window and said, "I have learned everything about the business department. Let's change departments. I want to go to the marketing department." Anya clenched her fists tightly, but still had a professional smile on her face. "Okay, young master, do you still want to start from the bottom this time? It's too troublesome to start from the bottom. Please arrange a position of deputy manager of the marketing department for me," I said directly. Anya was silent for a moment, then asked, "How long do you plan to stay in the marketing department this time?" It depends. I responded calmly. Okay, young master, I'll arrange it for you right away. She replied with her head down. Yeah. I nodded and stood up to leave. When I reached the door, I suddenly remembered something and turned around to ask, by the way, Anya, about why last time? Before she could finish her words, I saw her shaking her fist at me angrily, her eyes full of murderous intent, as if she was about to attack me. Chapter 41, he is a person with connections who got in through the back door. When I turned around suddenly, Anya's face turned pale in an instant. She instinctively stopped swinging her fists, her mouth slightly opened, but she said nothing. An awkward and forced smile quickly appeared on her face. Master, I've been sitting for the whole morning and my hands are a little sore. I just wanted to move them around. She herself didn't believe this excuse. Even she thought it was ridiculous. I looked at her, with the corners of my mouth slightly raised, and said in a cold voice, Are you insulting your own IQ or my IQ? My words made Anya's face even uglier. She lowered her head and dared not speak again. Damn it, she was doing something behind my back, and I caught her in the act. It was so embarrassing. Standing there, I suddenly felt bored, and my brain short-circuited. I seemed to have something to say just now, but when I thought about it, I couldn't think of anything. Forget it. I'll come back to you when I think of it. I simply stopped hesitating and walked out of the president's office, closing the door behind me. Bah! I heard Anya curse softly from behind, and she cursed in a low voice. Evil capitalist. That afternoon, an appointment notice was released in the company group. Li Ziheng, an intern in the business department, was transferred to the marketing department as deputy manager. As soon as the notice was sent out, the whole company went wild. An intern who had only been in the internship for less than a month was actually parachuted into the marketing department as a deputy manager? This was simply unreasonable. Everyone speculated that he must be a relative and had a powerful background. Even colleagues in the sales department were talking about it. Ziheng, tell me the truth. What is your relationship with Mr. N? A colleague came up to me and asked. When President N came to the cafeteria to have dinner with you, I suspected that you two knew each other privately. Another colleague also interrupted. Could you be a relative of Mizzen? You are older than Mizzen, so are you her cousin? Someone teased me jokingly. No way. If they were relatives, why would he give Ko Ziheng half a year's salary? Another person asked in confusion. I felt a headache and made up an excuse to get away with it. Actually, I have nothing to do with Mizzen. The reason I was promoted was because she deducted half a year's salary from me for no reason. So I called the labor bureau after get off work yesterday to report it. I said seriously. She was afraid that I would make a big deal out of it. So she discussed it with me and gave me a promotion. When my colleagues heard what I said, although they were surprised, they all expressed their trust in me and even admired my courage. Good boy, you're really brave. In the future, when we are not familiar with each other, just pretend you don't know me when we meet. I'm afraid of being implicated. A colleague patted me on the shoulder with a smile. Women hold grudges the most. You have really offended President N. Do you dare to stay in the company? Just wait to be bullied. Another person also teased. Godfather? Are you trying to rebel? No. I have to sever the father-son relationship with you. I responded with a smile. My colleagues surrounded me and kept teasing me. At this moment, Wang Chung, the business manager, came over, patted my shoulder, stuffed a pack of yellow Crane Tower cigarettes in my hand, and whispered to comfort me. Ziheng, there's always a way out. If you work hard, you may be able to turn the tide. I believe in your ability. My heart warmed, and I was about to say something, but Wang Chung ran back to his office as if he was escaping for his life. He walked faster than he ran, as if there was a ferocious beast chasing him. With a helpless smile, I carried the cardboard box into the elevator and prepared to go to the marketing department. There were many people in the marketing department, more than 100 people sitting outside, and there were also many offices. I walked all the way to the manager's office, and the manager Lu Yin greeted me. She was a woman in her early 40s, wearing a black business suit and looked very decent. Although she was older, she was well-maintained and gave people the feeling of being in her early 30s. She took me into my office. There were 2 staff members cleaning the office. When they saw us coming in, they greeted me warmly. This is your office. I will arrange for the information to be delivered later. If you have any questions, feel free to come to me. Lu Yin said. Thank you. I nodded with a smile. After Lu Yin left, I started to pack my things. When I was ready, a staff member knocked on the door and came in with a stack of documents and handed them to me. Manager Lee, this is the information from the marketing department. The clerk said coldly. I nodded and said with a smile, Okay, thank you, just put it on the table. Although I tried my best to be polite, The staff still looked at me with obvious disdain. I didn't take it seriously and just flipped through a document and started reading. There was a lot of information, and it was hard to digest it all at once, so I decided to take my time. It was time to get off work, and I suddenly remembered that Jasmine was still waiting for me to have dinner together in the rental house. I took a few documents and planned to go back first. When I left the company and walked out of the door, I heard some different discussions. Zhou Shuai, I really feel sorry for you. You should have secured the position of deputy manager, but an intern from the business department was parachuted in. Isn't this a joke? Yeah, who the hell is Li Ziheng? Does he understand the market? Just parachuting in as a deputy manager? One of the employees had a look of disdain on his face. Li Ziheng smiled secretly in his heart and did not intend to defend himself. After all, I was leaving my own house. When I returned to the rental house, I thought Jasmine should have prepared dinner, but when I opened the door, I found that the room was empty. I frowned and walked into the kitchen to prepare a meal when the doorbell rang. I opened the door, but I was surprised to see the person standing outside. Chapter 42. Poor innocent girl. Why is it you? I looked at the woman in front of me and frowned unconsciously. The person standing at the door was none other than Jiang Wan, who was in the cool-off period of divorce with me. Jiang Wan stood there with her head held high, as if waiting for me to invite her in. However, when she realized that I had no such intention, a trace of anger flashed across her face, and then she said coldly, I came here to tell you that my father has officially retired. I will take over Zhang's company, and there is no need to cooperate with Yinhai in the future. She paused and stared at me provocatively, as if she wanted to see regret or anger on my face. Zhang's has found a more suitable business partner. We will also set up a branch in Tianhai City, and Cheng-Hao will serve as the executive president of the branch. She looked smug and her eyes were full of provocation, as if she expected me to express dissatisfaction with her success. However, I did not show any emotion she expected. Instead, I said coldly, That's your business. What does it have to do with me? Jiang Wan obviously didn't expect my indifference. She frowned and sneered. It doesn't matter? If you divorce me later, Zhang's will have half of yours, but now, all this has nothing to do with you. I looked at her with impatience in my tone. You came to me just to say this? My tone obviously made her even angrier. Stop pretending, Li Ziheng. You have nothing after leaving me. I asked the agency and found out that you rent this house. You are so poor that you have to rent a house, and you still dare to be stubborn with me? She said, almost gritting her teeth. You're right, but what does this have to do with you? I still responded coldly, not at all moved by her provocation. Jiang Wan's anger grew stronger. She almost roared. You are so miserable, and you still refuse to give in? As long as you beg me, I can consider letting you move back. But the matter of remarriage depends on your performance in the future. I took a deep breath, paused for a moment, then took a step back and closed the door. Bah! Jiang Wan's anger almost made me hear the sound of her teeth clattering. Li Ziheng, you are a big idiot. You are the idiot. Your whole family is idiot. I responded angrily. I was so angry that my voice was a little loud, but when I thought about Jiang Wan's unreasonable behavior, I didn't feel so bad. After closing the door, I went back to the kitchen to continue cooking dinner. Just as I was preparing to put the food on the table, I heard the sound of a key turning the door lock. I was startled, and the bowl of rice in my hand fell upside down on the table. Will this stupid woman hire a locksmith to pry open my security door? I wondered. The door opened. It was not Jiang Wan who appeared, but Jasmine, who walked in wearing a school uniform and carrying a bag of food. When she saw me, she was stunned for a moment. Her face turned red like an apple, and she whispered, I'm sorry, I came back late. It's good that you know to come back. I forced a smile. Although I felt a little dissatisfied in my heart, I still remained calm. At this moment, part of me was still unhappy because of Jiang Wan's matter, and the other part was because of Jasmine's attitude. I had already given her 500,000 yuan, but her attitude still made me unhappy. I won't do that again. Jasmine lowered her head and said nothing more. She closed the door, changed into slippers, and hurried into the kitchen. I looked at her back, picked up the bowl helplessly, and poured the rice into the bowl. I didn't cook your rice. Jasmine's face turned a little pale, and her tone was full of apology. It's okay. I'm not hungry. Brother, are these 2 dishes enough for you? If not, I can make them for you. Just as she finished saying this, her stomach growled loudly. At least that's what I heard. Jasmine's face instantly turned red. I looked at her, and my heart couldn't help but soften. I sighed. It's just a bowl of rice. Bring out a bowl, and I'll give you half. No, no, brother, you eat it. I'm on a diet, and I don't eat at night. Jasmine waved her hands quickly. I frowned and said, just do whatever you were told to do. Oh. Jasmine lowered her head, her eyes red, and turned to go to the kitchen to get a set of bowls and chopsticks. I reluctantly shared most of the bowl of rice in her bowl and said, eat it. Jasmine ate obediently and looked very quiet. But she only ate the food without picking up any vegetables. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but get angry again. You don't want to eat the vegetables. Wait for me to chew them up and feed you mouth to mouth. No, no thanks. Jasmine quickly picked up a piece of green pepper with chopsticks and put it into the bowl, then started eating it in small bites. I watched her eat, feeling helpless. Really? It's so troublesome to eat some food. Okay, I won't be so mean to you anymore. Jasmine raised her head, her eyes reddened. Brother, I don't mean to blame you. I just cried because I was moved. Touched? Why are you touched? Just because I picked up food for you. I didn't quite understand. Jasmine's eyes overflowed with more tears, and she whispered, not entirely. I am touched because you are good to me, brother, better than my parents. You are the first person who treats me like this. I was a little stunned. These words made me feel very complicated. Jasmine continued, my family is from the countryside. My parents favor boys over girls. They didn't like me since I was a child and thought I was a money loser. When I was in school, they advised me not to study, thinking that studying was useless, and asked me to help with housework. She continued her story. Later, when I was studying, they didn't give me money either, so I had to rely on scholarships and part-time jobs to survive. I went to the bar yesterday because my parents forced me to marry a contractor. The contractor gave my parents 200,000 yuan as a betrothal gift. I didn't want to marry him, but my dad said that unless I gave him 500,000 yuan, I had to marry him. I really couldn't think of a solution at that time, so I went to the bar. Jasmine's tears kept falling, and she wiped them away as she continued to talk. Her story made me so sad that I couldn't help but soften my heart. I asked unconsciously, why did you come back so late today? Did you go out to work part-time? Jasmine nodded. I don't have money to buy groceries, so I went to work part-time at a milk tea shop, 20 yuan an hour, and I just got paid today. I felt guilty and began to feel more sympathy. Add me on Fission, and I'll give you living expenses every month. Don't take part-time jobs and focus on your studies. I took out my phone, but Jasmine shook her head. No, brother, I can earn it myself. You've already helped me with 500,000. I can't ask for more money from you. Should I listen to you or to me? I said coldly. Jasmine quickly shut up, but she still didn't take out her cell phone. I couldn't help but urge him. Take out your phone and add a friend quickly. I don't have any cash on me. Jasmine blushed and took out an old Nokia phone from her pocket. The buttons of the phone had faded, and it looked like it had been used for a long time. I sighed helplessly. Let's eat first. I'll take you to the mall tomorrow. I guess she was going to refuse, so I added before she could say anything, from now on, you have to listen to whatever I say, and you are not allowed to refuse. Jasmine nodded and said nothing more. We continued to eat, and I felt complicated as I looked at her quiet appearance. She ate very carefully and without making any sound. After finishing the meal, I went back to my room to take a shower. When I came out of the shower, Jasmine came in. She didn't say anything, but went straight into the bathroom. This time, she took a quick shower and came out in 10 minutes. Chapter 43, Why Are You Not Wearing Anything? I woke up in the morning and saw Jasmine still wrapped in a bath towel, looking like a helpless little pitiful girl. She walked carefully to the bed and tried to climb up. Seeing this, I quickly moved back and asked in surprise, what do you want to do? Her eyes were burning, locked on me, and she whispered, brother, you are a good person. I am willing to give myself to you. What's the point of you being willing? I don't want to go sleep next door. I pushed her away impatiently. To be honest, I did have some thoughts, but I felt pity for Jasmine's past and couldn't do it. Her experience was too tragic, and I couldn't do anything to hurt her. I am a human being, not an animal. The next morning, when I got up, Jasmine had already prepared breakfast in the kitchen, just like yesterday. After we finished eating, I took her to a nearby mall. Seeing that everything seemed so unfamiliar to her, I decided to buy her something to make her feel better. I picked out a new Huawei phone for her. When she wanted to refuse, I just shut her up with a look. After buying the phone, I added her to Fission and transferred 20,000 yuan to her. Then, I took her to a brand women's clothing store. I had bought clothes for Jiangwan before, so I had a pretty good eye. After a lot of selection, I bought 7 sets of clothes for Jasmine. The next step was to buy underwear. Although I was a little embarrassed, I still plucked up the courage to ask her, "How old are you?" She replied shyly, "Brother, I just turned 20 last month." I was stunned and continued to ask, "I'm not asking about that. I'm asking, how big is that place?" She lowered her head, her face flushed to her neck, and whispered, "D, 36D. I felt my face getting hot, and I was a little overwhelmed. After knowing her size, I immediately took her to the lingerie store and picked out 7 sets, mainly white and black. After buying clothes, I picked out 7 sets of shoes and socks for her, and the shopping process didn't end until noon. With my hands full of shopping bags and my patience almost exhausted, I simply didn't let her go back to cook, but took her to a Western restaurant in the mall for lunch. After eating, we returned to the rental house. I walked into the second bedroom with my shopping bag. I was stunned. There was nothing in the room except a bed and a new bed sheet. The bed sheet was unopened, but where were the other bedding? I turned to look at Jasmine in confusion. Her face turned red instantly, and she lowered her head, not daring to look at me. "Okay, we still have to go by bedding." I sighed, put the bag down, turned around, and went out again. This time I didn't take her with me, but asked her to sort out the clothes I just bought. After a whole day, Jasmine's room was finally habitable. Watching her busy figure, I said to her, "If you need anything in the future, just tell me. I am not short of money, and I don't need you to save money for me. You are too thin. You need to eat more. Drink a can of fresh milk every day and eat better." She replied in a panic, "No, brother, I can actually eat a lot." Seeing her like this, I felt a little sorry for her, so I reminded her, "I'm not unconditionally good to you. You are responsible for the hygiene of the house and 3 meals a day on weekends." She nodded quickly. "Okay, I understand, brother. This is what I should do." I sat on the sofa and suddenly felt that something was wrong with the way she looked at me, but I didn't think much about it and got up and went back to my room. Although I bought a lot of things today, I also brought some information from the marketing department and planned to read it in my free time. About 3 hours later, Jasmine came into the room twice. The first time, she brought a cup of warm water, and the second time, she brought a fruit plate. She was very considerate. In the evening, she cooked 3 dishes and a soup, which tasted quite good, full of Sichuan flavor. While eating, I chatted with her about some light topics. Through chatting, I learned that she studied acting at the Film Academy. She told me that she wanted to be an internet celebrity first because it was a fast way to get ahead and make money quickly. Once she had accumulated some popularity, she would enter the entertainment industry. I sighed and told her that the entertainment industry is a big melting pot, and a simple girl like her would definitely suffer a great loss if she entered it. I know she is full of longing for this circle, but I have to give her some realistic reminders. Jasmine hesitated for a moment and finally decided to give up her dream of the entertainment industry and chose the film and television industry instead. I told her that although the film and television industry is treacherous, it is much cleaner than the entertainment industry. As long as she doesn't do anything illegal, she still has a chance. She said confidently, "I will work hard and will not go astray." I nodded, feeling somewhat appreciative of her determination. After dinner, I felt that some design problems of the house gradually emerged. For example, the location of the bathroom was very unreasonable. The bathroom was actually in the master bedroom, which meant that Jasmine had to pass through my room every time she went to the bathroom. At night, I took a shower and lay down, and soon fell asleep. In the early hours of the morning, I suddenly woke up to go to the bathroom, and when I returned to bed, I saw Jasmine lying on my bed. She was sleeping soundly, with a faint smile on her face. I instinctively wanted to wake her up and let her go back to her room, but seeing how quiet she was, I couldn't bear to disturb her. For some reason, I fell asleep again. At dawn, I turned over and suddenly heard Jasmine's low, moaning voice in my ears. "Hmm." I opened my eyes suddenly and saw her blushing face. She whispered, "Brother, I'm sorry, did I disturb you?" I was about to comfort her, but suddenly froze and asked in surprise, "Why are you not wearing anything?" Her face flushed instantly, and she lowered her head in embarrassment. Chapter 44, Brother. As agreed, I am already yours. Jasmine's figure on this bed made me feel indescribably embarrassed. She was not wearing any clothes, and I was forced to share a room with her. At this moment, my emotions were complicated, and shock far outweighed any other emotions. Jasmine whispered, "Brother, according to our agreement, I am already yours." Her words made my mind go blank, and the blush on my face seemed to penetrate to my ears. I instinctively wanted to escape, so I quickly got up from the bed, put on my home clothes, and hurried to the door. The urge in my heart made me at a loss. "Jasmine, don't do this again. I tried to stay calm, and after saying this, I turned and walked out. The air outside finally calmed me down a bit. Jasmine was still lying on the bed, her eyes a little blurry. 10 minutes later, she walked out of the room and just happened to see me busy in the kitchen. She didn't say anything, and I didn't turn around. I didn't know how to face her after what happened just now. There seemed to be an invisible, awkward atmosphere between us. After breakfast, we sat down to eat quietly. The atmosphere was silent for a while. Jasmine finally broke the silence. "Brother, do you dislike me?" I was stunned for a moment and asked in a low voice. "Why do you say that?" Jasmine's eyes sparkled with tears, and she spoke weakly. "You said that I would be the one to cook all 3 meals at home in the future. But brother, don't you like me doing these things?" Her tears flowed out like a flood. I quickly comforted her. "Don't think too much. I just forgot about it. I promise I won't do this again in the future." She nodded, and her tears stopped immediately with a relaxed smile on her face. Her smile was as bright as the sun, and the tears in her eyes made her look even more charming. My heart skipped a beat, and I could only whisper a response, then hurried back to my room. I tried to concentrate on reading the information in my room, but Jasmine's shy appearance and her voice in the morning kept appearing in my mind. I patted my forehead, trying to drive away those inappropriate thoughts. "Li Ziheng, how could you have such thoughts about Jasmine?" I said to myself, self-blamingly. I was absent-minded the whole morning until noon, when there was a knock on the door and Jasmine's voice came from outside the door. "Brother, it's time to come out for dinner." I responded, forced myself to calm down, and walked out of the room. 3 dishes and a soup were already prepared on the table. I was surprised to find that Jasmine's cooking skills were much better than I thought. After dinner, I subconsciously wanted to clean up the dishes, but then I thought that these things were no longer my responsibility, so I went back to my room. We barely communicated throughout the afternoon until 3:30, when another knock on the door broke the silence. "Brother, I want to go to the bathroom." Jasmine's voice was a little shy. "There is only one bathroom in this house. Just come in. No need to knock," I said awkwardly and continued to look at the documents in my hand. However, after Jasmine came in, the atmosphere in the room seemed even more subtle. She didn't leave immediately after entering the room, and I felt a little helpless. It seems that I have to reconsider renting a house. Just as I was thinking about this question, Jasmine said softly, "Brother, are you worried about something?" I was startled and turned around to see her sitting by the bed, her eyes full of concern. I hurriedly calmed down and said, "It's okay, I'm just thinking about something." Jasmine seemed to sense my thoughts. She lowered her head and whispered, "Brother, I'm bored alone. I always want to be with you." Her eyes were gentle and persistent, which made me feel reluctant to leave. "Jasmine, you can do something you like on the weekend. You don't have to accompany me all the time," I advised softly. Her eyes lit up, and she immediately responded, "I like to accompany you. My brother is my benefactor. I want to stay by your side and take care of you." When she said this, the twinkling light in her eyes made me feel a little overwhelmed. Although her dependence made me feel a little uneasy, I couldn't help but feel a little satisfied at the same time. I thought about it and said, "Since you have time, why not consider becoming an internet celebrity first? If you want to do this, I can help you." Jasmine's eyes suddenly lit up, as if she had found a new direction. She nodded with a hint of hesitation. "But live streaming requires equipment, and I can't afford it now." I smiled, got up, and took her to buy live broadcast equipment. After returning home, I helped her install the equipment, and when she was ready, she started her first live broadcast. Surprisingly, not long after the live broadcast began, many viewers entered her live broadcast room. Jasmine's performance was simple and natural. Her voice was clear and pleasant when she sang, and her skills were not inferior, which attracted more and more viewers. Just then, I received a message from Anya. She complained to me, "Master, I understand that you like Douyin anchors, but you don't want me to push your live broadcast in the company group late at night, right?" I smiled helplessly. Anya brought me a lot of popularity, and the live broadcast room instantly became lively. At the end of the live broadcast, Jasmine received a lot of attention, and I also gave her some tips. The atmosphere in the live broadcast room was very hot. But when I took a short break and looked at my phone, I actually received a private message from Jiangwan. My heart sank when I saw her message. I was a little upset by her message, so I quickly replied, "What's it got to do with you?" Immediately, I blacklisted her account and ignored it. When Jiangwan saw this message from a distance, she was so angry that she couldn't sleep all night. But I fell into a deep sleep in the quiet night and had a beautiful dream. However, dreams will eventually be shattered by reality. Sooner or later, Li Ziheng will have to face some choices that he has to make. Chapter 45. Almost losing my mind. Li Ziheng's body was stiff for a long time. He waited until he calmed down, and then he sighed softly. He stared quietly at Jasmine's delicate face and couldn't help but sigh in his heart, although Jasmine was a little thinner and her skin was not very white. But I have to say that Jasmine is very pretty and a real beauty. Thinking of this, he stretched out his dirty hands and gently stroked Jasmine's face. Very smooth and tender. The moment his fingers lightly touched Jasmine's skin, Li Ziheng's heartbeat quickened and he felt an electric shock all over his body. His breathing gradually became heavier, and in his field of vision, Jasmine's delicate and pretty face, as she slept soundly, kept getting bigger and bigger. A light breath with a faint fragrance blew through his nostrils. Li Ziheng narrowed his eyes slightly and were about to close them. Their lips are about to touch each other. At this moment, Jasmine seemed to sense something. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and her beautiful eyes slowly opened. Her eyes were a little confused, as if she had not woken up yet. Li Ziheng was startled and quickly distanced himself. Jasmine whimpered and woke up. She looked at Li Ziheng, whose ears were a little red, and her star-like eyes flashed with doubt and confusion. Elder brother. Jasmine let out a soft cry with her pink lips slightly opened. Li Ziheng swallowed, quickly got up from the bed, and ran into the bathroom in his slippers. In the bathroom, Li Ziheng looked at himself in the mirror and couldn't help but regret. He raised his hand and pressed it on his left chest, feeling his heart beating wildly, and he felt a little dazed. Just now, he almost lost his mind and attacked Jasmine. At that moment, his mind was actually occupied by primitive desire, and he only wanted to make Jasmine his woman. Li Ziheng, how could you do such a shameless thing? Are you still a human being? Li Ziheng murmured in a low voice. Feeling that his body was still in a hot state, Li Ziheng simply went into the bathroom, took a cold shower, and quickly calmed himself down. At the same time, Jasmine sat up on the soft white bed, with a strange look in her eyes, staring straight in the direction of the bathroom. Hearing the sound of running water coming from the bathroom, the corners of her lips unconsciously drew a charming curve. Brother, how long can you endure this? Half an hour later, in the restaurant, Li Ziheng and Jasmine sat face to face. Neither of them spoke, and the atmosphere was a little weird. Jasmine occasionally looked up, secretly glancing at Li Ziheng with sparkling eyes. But Li Ziheng kept his head down the whole time and ate his breakfast seriously. After eating and drinking, Li Ziheng took out a napkin and wiped the corners of his mouth. I'm going to work now. See you in the evening. After saying this, Li Ziheng picked up the documents on the table, stood up, changed his shoes without looking back, and walked out the door. When the door closed, Li Ziheng let out a long sigh of relief. That was so embarrassing just now. I don't know if Jasmine saw her sinful face when she woke up. All the way to the downstairs of the company, Li Ziheng happened to meet Anya, who had just arrived at the company. Anya was still dressed like a domineering female CEO, with a strong aura, looking superior, and a cold temperament surrounding her that kept people at a distance. Li Ziheng just glanced at her lightly and prepared to enter the elevator. Wait, Li Ziheng, come to my office later. I have something to talk to you about. As soon as Li Ziheng stepped into the elevator, he heard Anya's voice behind him, saying that no disobedience would be tolerated. Hearing this, several colleagues in the elevator looked at Li Ziheng with curiosity. In front of his employees, Li Ziheng didn't dare to refuse, so he agreed. After returning to his office, Li Ziheng put the documents on the table and went to find Anya. President's office. Anya was sitting in the boss chair, sipping the imported coffee that her secretary had just brought her. As the office door was pushed open, Li Ziheng walked in confidently. You want to talk to me about something? Li Ziheng went straight to the point. Anya put down the coffee in her hand, smiled faintly, and her voice became much softer. Master, is the anchor named Jasmine last night really your sister? Li Ziheng frowned slightly and asked in displeasure. You asked me to come here just to ask this? Curious. Anya winked playfully. At this moment, she no longer had that cold feeling that kept people at a distance, but instead had the feeling of a tsundere girl. Li Ziheng replied indifferently. I guess so. Hearing this, Anya frowned slightly, feeling a little uncomfortable. I guess so? The tone is so uncertain, which means that Li Ziheng has no blood relationship with the anchor named Jasmine. Could it be my beloved sister? Thinking of this, Anya frowned even deeper, and a faint cold aura emanated from her body. If there's nothing else, I'll be out first. Seeing that Anya stopped talking, Li Ziheng prepared to leave. Master, excuse me, do you want to train her? If so, I can help you. Seeing Li Ziheng about to leave, Anya immediately stopped him. Li Ziheng became interested, but did not say anything. Instead, he looked directly at Anya, motioning her to continue. I know a friend who happens to be in the live streaming industry. His company has 50 anchors and an outdoor anchor with 5 million fans. If you need him, I can introduce him to you. Everyone has their own expertise. Young Master doesn't understand the live broadcast industry. If you want to help, I guess I can only throw money at you. But throwing money at you may not produce any results. It's better to let professionals train Jasmine. What do you think? Anya had a faint smile on her lips, and she seemed calm and composed as if she was discussing cooperation with someone. Of course, I am just suggesting it. Whether it is adopted or not depends entirely on your opinion, young master. Li Ziheng pondered for a while and decided to ask Jasmine what she thought first. After all, although he wanted to help Jasmine get out of poverty, he didn't want Jasmine to become a puppet at his disposal. Everyone has his or her own freedom. He would respect Jasmine's ideas. That's a good suggestion. I'll give you a reply tomorrow. Li Ziheng nodded slightly, then turned around, opened the door of the president's office, and walked out. Looking at the tightly closed door, Anya murmured in her heart, Master, master, why are there so many romantic opportunities around you? Can't you restrain yourself a little? Because he has not finished reading the information, Li Ziheng has not yet started working as the deputy general manager of the marketing department. Throughout the day, he spent almost all his time reading materials. According to the current progress, he will be able to finish reading all the information before the end to get off work today and start taking over the job of deputy general manager tomorrow. Compared to Li Ziheng's easy and comfortable life, Jiang Wan's job is not easy. Yunhai has a huge influence, and the cancellation of cooperation with Jiang Group cannot be concealed. Just this morning, when she had just arrived at the company, she was told by the secretary that some small and medium-sized partners had called to inquire about the cancellation of the cooperation between Jiang and Yunhai. Jiang Wan knew that this kind of thing could not be kept secret, so she spent the entire morning calling those partners to explain. Her explanation was a mixture of half-truths and half-lies. In her words, Jiang is prepared to temporarily abandon plans to expand overseas markets and concentrate on optimizing the company's core products. Compared with developing overseas markets, the domestic market is much easier. On the one hand, it is about seeking stability, and on the other hand, it is about enhancing domestic influence and reputation. Jiang's current plan is to first march into Tianhai City, set up a branch in Tianhai City, and then replicate it after Tianhai City stabilizes to create a national chain enterprise. Only in this way can Jiang's reputation and influence be spread to the greatest extent, and finally point the sword overseas, directly cooperate deeply with overseas cutting-edge pharmaceutical companies, and obtain greater benefits. Most of the partners were successfully convinced by her words, but some partners remained skeptical and reduced some of their cooperation. Although Jiang Wan was very angry about this, there was nothing she could do. At noon, Chung Hao came over. With a perfectly appropriate smile on his face, he strode to Jiang Wan's desk. Wanner, don't work too hard. You might end up hurting yourself. It won't be worth it. As he spoke, Chung Hao took out a flyer, handed it to Jiang Wan, and said, a new restaurant is open near the company. I'll treat you. Let's have lunch together. I'm not hungry now, and the company has too many things to do. Jiang Wan smiled bitterly and shook her head. But before he could finish his refusal, Chung Hao pretended to be angry and said with a stern face, Man is iron and food is steel. If you work so hard, be careful of getting a stomach disease. When she heard about stomach problems, Jiang Wan immediately thought of Li Ziheng. She often skipped breakfast in the past, and her 3 meals a day eating habits were extremely unstable. For this reason, Li Ziheng sent her to the hospital overnight because of stomach pain. After that, Li Ziheng made stomach-nourishing pumpkin porridge for her every day and urged her to eat on time. At this moment, she actually missed the days when Li Ziheng took care of her. Although she would find Li Ziheng annoying every time he urged her, she felt sweet in her heart every time. But now, the husband who took care of her in every possible way is about to get a divorce certificate from her. Thinking of this, Jiang Wan became more and more irritated. Even the tone of his voice when speaking to Chung Hao became full of hostility. I don't want to eat. If you want to eat it yourself. If you have this time, you might as well help me deal with the company's affairs. Faced with Jiang Wan's sudden change of attitude, Chung Hao suddenly felt a surge of anger in his heart. But after thinking of his purpose, he endured it. Okay, since you don't want to eat, then I won't eat either. You go ahead, and I'll go take care of the preparations for the Tianhai City branch. Chung Hao clenched his fists and finished speaking with a smile. Just as he was about to leave, Jiang Wan suddenly said, "Sorry, Chung Hao, I was in a bad mood just now. Don't mind, I'll treat you tonight. Now, let's deal with the company's business first." "It's okay, I understand. Just go ahead and do your work." Chung Hao chuckled, nodded, turned and left. But the moment he turned around, the smile on his face disappeared instantly, replaced by a cruel look. Chapter 46. Two Sisters. Tit for tat. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, it's time to get off work. Li Ziheng packed up his things and prepared to go home after get off work. At this moment, Anya's phone suddenly came. Li Ziheng was a little curious, but still answered the call. "Master, are you free tonight? I bought some seafood online yesterday. Do you want to come to my house for dinner?" "No need. My sister should have prepared the meal by now." "You and your sister are living together? Any questions? Didn't you say it's inappropriate for a single man and a single woman to live together? Why are you—" There was a hint of displeasure in Anya's tone, and she didn't even finish the rest of her words. But Li Ziheng understood what she wanted to express. "She's different from you, Pa." Li Ziheng heard the sound of something breaking in the receiver. Then, Anya continued, "Master, you said that you also treat me as your sister. If that's the case, then what's the difference between me and that sister named Jasmine? Or are you partial?" This, faced with Anya's questioning, Li Ziheng actually didn't know how to answer. In the president's office, Anya sat in the boss chair, looking depressed and unwilling. She bit her lower lip lightly, as if she had suffered a great injustice. The secretary holding a folder nearby looked as if she had seen a ghost. Is this still the cold and domineering president of Inda? Why does she look like a pitiful woman who has been abandoned? Anya said unwillingly. "I don't care, since we are both sisters. I want to live with you too. I have 2 rooms. There is no room for you. Master, I seriously suspect that you are targeting me on purpose. As compensation, I have decided to go to your house for meals every day." After Anya finished speaking, she hung up the phone without giving Li Ziheng time to react. She looked a little unhappy. The low pressure all around him made the female secretary next to him break out in a cold sweat and remain silent. "Please handle the follow-up work. I'm leaving get off work early." Anya stood up, picked up her bag, and walked out of the office. The secretary nodded repeatedly and watched Anya leave. There were many people taking the employee elevator, so when Li Ziheng walked out of the elevator, Anya was already there before him, waiting at the company entrance. Some employees wanted to say hello to Anya when they saw her, but after seeing Anya's cold expression, everyone subconsciously turned their eyes away and tried to take a detour as much as possible. As soon as Li Ziheng walked out of the company gate, his eyes were attracted by Anya. There were many employees getting off work, and it was crowded, but Anya had her own aura, and with her outstanding height and appearance, she stood out among the crowd like a crane among chickens. When Li Ziheng discovered Anya, Anya also immediately locked onto Li Ziheng. The two looked at each other, and Anya was about to walk towards him. Li Ziheng frowned slightly and immediately gave her a look. Anya stopped, glared at him, then turned and walked towards Li Ziheng's rental house. Li Ziheng secretly breathed a sigh of relief and followed Anya not too far away. After entering the community, Anya came over decisively. "Master, you haven't answered me yet. We are both sisters. What's the difference between me and that sister named Jasmine?" Anya stood in front of Li Ziheng with an aggrieved expression on her face. She is already good-looking, and when she looks aggrieved, she becomes even more charming. Li Ziheng shifted his gaze from Anya's face and said guiltily, "She is more miserable and needs someone to take care of her and protect her. You are different. You are very strong and don't need anyone to take care of you either." Anya thought of the countless reasons why Li Ziheng would answer her. But I never expected Li Ziheng to say that. "Master, you are prejudiced. How am I strong? How do I not need someone to take care of me or protect me?" Anya was angry. Because of Song Yi's matter, she deliberately distanced herself from Li Ziheng for a few days. But Li Ziheng didn't take the initiative to find her, and even started a cold war with her. Originally, she was very angry, but after some investigation, she found out that Song Yi had not met Li Ziheng again after that meeting, which made her resentment dissipate a lot. Yesterday, she was still thinking about giving Li Ziheng a way out today, so she took the initiative to find Li Ziheng. But that night, Li Ziheng asked her to help boost the popularity of another girl's live broadcast room. At that time, she realized that Li Ziheng had a love rival again. But Li Ziheng explained that it was his sister, so she didn't think much of it. In order to reassure herself, she asked him in person today, but the result almost made her angry to death. When she learned that Li Ziheng was living with a girl named Jasmine, she became even angrier. Why? Is she ugly? Or is your figure not good enough? Anya felt so wronged when she thought of Li Ziheng's different treatment. She finally met a man she liked, but this man had no interest in her. Even though she took the initiative, he still rejected her in various ways, which made her wonder if she lacked charm. But now, Li Ziheng's explanation was that the girl named Jasmine was pitiful and needed care and protection. Anya, stop it! Li Ziheng sighed helplessly and reached out to rub Anya's hair. Anya slapped Li Ziheng's hand away and turned away angrily. Li Ziheng didn't know what to do for a moment, so he just strode towards the building. Anya followed him closely like a bullied wife. It's not that she hasn't thought about leaving, but she knows that once she leaves, she will have no chance anymore. She had to assert her initiative and make that pitiful little vixen give up. If it really doesn't work, you can just pay her money and ask her to leave Li Ziheng. The two entered the elevator, and Anya still looked cute and angry. It was not until Li Ziheng opened the door with the key that the angry expression on Anya's face disappeared. In front of people other than Li Ziheng, she must maintain her image as a cool female CEO. Hearing the door open, Jasmine said without turning her head while cutting vegetables, "Brother, I still have a dish that I haven't finished yet. You can go take a shower first." She was wearing a sky blue apron and had her hair tied up high, like a virtuous wife busy in the kitchen waiting for her husband to come home. "Okay, thank you for your hard work," Li Ziheng replied with a smile. After a pause, he added, "By the way, Jasmine, let me introduce you. This is Anya, a friend of mine." Li Ziheng felt that there was nothing wrong with his introduction. But after Anya heard this, her expression suddenly turned grim. "Didn't you say you treated me as your sister? How come you've become my friend now?" "Okay, I'll just ignore it, sister, okay?" Li Ziheng smiled bitterly. At this time, Jasmine also turned around and looked at Anya with some curiosity. "Hello, Sister Anya." She held the kitchen knife and smiled sweetly at Anya. Anya smiled politely and nodded slightly in response. Jasmine said enthusiastically, "Sister Anya, please sit down first. Dinner will be ready soon." "Well, thank you for your hard work." Anya nodded and walked straight to the sofa in the living room. She sat on the sofa, her eyes fixed on Jasmine, who was busy in the kitchen, wondering what she was thinking. About 10 minutes later, Li Ziheng finished his shower, changed into home clothes, and came out. The three of them sat around the dining table and began to enjoy their delicious dinner. "Brother, this is the beef with tofu that I made according to the recipe. I wonder if it suits your taste." Jasmine picked up a piece of beef and put it into Li Ziheng's bowl with an expectant expression on her face. Li Ziheng nodded with a smile, put the food into his mouth in a few gulps, and tasted it carefully. It's delicious." "Really? If you want to eat it next time, I'll make it for you." Jasmine smiled happily. "Don't just eat vegetables. You're so skinny. You need to eat more meat." In return, Li Ziheng also picked up a piece of beef for Jasmine. Jasmine's cheeks flushed. She nodded slightly and started eating. Seeing the two of them being so intimate, Anya was so angry that her face almost turned green. But she couldn't show it, so she raised her foot and kicked Li Ziheng hard under the table. Li Ziheng felt pain and frowned. He was about to scold Anya when he saw Anya pursed her lips and stared at him aggrievedly. Seeing that Li Ziheng didn't understand what she meant, Anya signaled Li Ziheng with her eyes to pick some food for her. Li Ziheng rolled his eyes and picked up some beef for Anya. "Thank you, brother." Anya smiled sweetly, her voice soft and sticky, as if she was acting coquettishly. The expression on Jasmine's face froze slightly, and she raised her eyes to look at Anya. The two looked at each other, and there seemed to be lightning flashing in the air, crackling. "Brother, shredded pork with green pepper is my specialty. Try it and see if it needs improvement." Jasmine started to pick up food for Li Ziheng. Anya was not to be outdone and also picked up some food for Li Ziheng. "Brother, eat some vegetables. The combination of meat and vegetables is more nutritious." Seeing this, Jasmine clenched her hand, holding the chopsticks slightly. "Brother, try this." "Brother, drink some soup. It seems very hot. Let me blow on it for you." The two good sisters began to pick up food and feed soup to Li Ziheng. At first, Li Ziheng felt very warm, but as the food in his bowl gradually piled up like a small mountain, he immediately put on a mask of pain. Okay, eat your food. I have my own hands. I can pick up what I want to eat myself. Li Ziheng frowned and scolded the two of them. Only at this point did Anya and Jasmine calm down. After dinner, Jasmine began to clean up the table, while Li Ziheng sent Anya to the gate of the community. Brother, you really just treat Jasmine as your sister, right? Before they parted, Anya asked Li Ziheng with a serious expression. Li Ziheng was stunned for a moment, and his mind couldn't help but recall the scene that happened this morning. Facing Anya's sharp gaze, Li Ziheng coughed lightly and responded with a guilty conscience. Of course. That's good. I believe my brother won't lie to me. Hearing Li Ziheng's answer, Anya's face suddenly lit up with a smile. She waved at Li Ziheng, then took small steps towards the company. But after walking a distance, the smile on her face began to disappear. As the executive president of Yanhai, she has seen countless people, and Li Ziheng's reaction just now was obviously a little guilty. She took out her cell phone and quickly made a call. 100,000. Help me find someone. I want her detailed information, from childhood to adulthood. Chapter 47, A Show of Power. When Li Ziheng returned to the rental house, Jasmine had just walked out of the kitchen. She took off the apron around her waist and said with a smile, Brother, has Sister Anya gone home? Li Ziheng nodded slightly. Seeing that sweat was oozing out of Jasmine's forehead, he said, Go take a shower first. Okay, brother? Jasmine was very obedient. She turned around and went to her room to get some clothes to change into, and then went into Li Ziheng's room. Li Ziheng originally wanted to go back to his room, but thinking that Jasmine was taking a shower in her room, he decided to wait until Jasmine came out before going in. After waiting for about 20 minutes, Jasmine came out. Her hair was wet, and she was wiping it with a towel. Her cheeks were a little flushed, and there was a hint of uncertainty in her watery eyes. Brother, I'm going to start a live broadcast soon. Will it disturb your rest? No, just focus on the live broadcast. Li Ziheng smiled and didn't mind. Hearing this, Jasmine secretly breathed a sigh of relief, smiled sweetly, and went back to her room to blow dry her hair. Taking advantage of this time, Li Ziheng also took a shower. When I came out of the shower, Jasmine knocked on the door and came in. Jasmine took the phone and excitedly pointed the screen at Li Ziheng. Brother, someone just sent me a private message asking me to join their union. I don't really understand this, so I wanted to ask for your advice. On the interface of the mobile phone screen, there was a private message invitation sent by a staff member of a trade union. When he heard about the union, Li Ziheng immediately remembered the advice Anya gave him. So he told Jasmine about this matter. Jasmine didn't say anything, but stared at Li Ziheng intently. Brother, what do you think? Instead of making the decision herself, she asked Li Ziheng for his opinion. Li Ziheng was a little surprised, but he still patiently analyzed. You are a newcomer, you have no experience, and you know too little about the live broadcast industry. If you want to go further, it would be better to join a live broadcast company. After a pause, Li Ziheng continued. Of course, this is only temporary. Once you have thoroughly understood the rules of the live broadcast industry and have a certain popularity base, you can also try to work alone and start your own business. After all, if you work, the money comes too slowly. Even if you work for a lifetime, it will be difficult for you to achieve financial freedom. What's more, you have bigger goals, so this is a step you must take. Li Ziheng entered the sea of clouds for a very short time. But having been with his mother for so long, he has learned a lot from her and has gained some insights into business, entrepreneurship, and company management. I listened to my brother. Li Ziheng talked and analyzed for a long time, but Jasmine's answer was very brief. Did you listen to me? Or have you not thought about how to plan for the future and achieve your goals? Li Ziheng smiled bitterly and shook his head. After these words were spoken, Li Ziheng clearly noticed that Jasmine's face turned red unnaturally. Li Ziheng was right. You are still young and you still have a lot to learn. Society is a big melting pot, but it is also a battlefield. If you want to gain a firm foothold in society, you must continue to learn and absorb more. Li Ziheng patiently explained. What the school teaches you are just some basic skills, but these skills may not necessarily make money. If you want to make money, you have to learn the skills to make money. That's all for today. Go and do your work. Okay, brother? Jasmine nodded obediently. With Jasmine's answer, Li Ziheng immediately sent a message to Anya, asking her to help arrange for Jasmine to join her friend's live broadcast company. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Jasmine started the live broadcast. But unlike last night, the number of people in the live broadcast room today was pitifully small. Although there were some tips, they only added up to about 100 yuan. After 2 hours of live streaming, Jasmine turned off the live streaming function. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening. She timidly came to the door of Li Zihang's room. She wanted to knock on the door, but was worried about disturbing Li Zihang, so she gently turned the doorknob and walked in. There was only a bedside lamp on in the bedroom, and the light was a little dim. Jasmine went to the bathroom and then tiptoed to the bed. Under the dim light, Li Zihang's eyes were closed, as if he had already fallen asleep. Jasmine stared at Li Zihang's handsome face for a long time, and finally climbed onto the bed gently and snuggled into Li Zihang's arms. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Li Zihang's originally even breathing suddenly paused. Jasmine covered Li Zihang with a blanket, then put her arm around Li Zihang and held him tightly in her arms. After a while, Jasmine fell asleep. Half an hour later, Li Zihang, who had fallen asleep, slowly opened his eyes. He turned his head to look at Jasmine, who was sleeping in his arms, and the corners of his lips unconsciously raised a slight arc. He exerted a little force with his arms and moved closer to Jasmine. No words were spoken that night. The next day, when Li Zihang woke up, his pillow was empty. After washing up and walking out of the room, you can smell the fragrance of food. Jasmine tied an apron around her waist and said good morning to Li Zihang. After breakfast, Li Zihang and Jasmine went out together. When he arrived at the company, Li Zihang went directly to the office of Manager Liu from the marketing department. Manager Liu, I have finished reading the information about the marketing department. Manager Liu had just turned on her computer. When she heard what Li Zihang said, she smiled, picked up 3 folders from the desk, and handed them to Li Zihang. This is the project information of the Economic Development Zone. The project has just been finalized. Manager Li can practice with this project first. Good. Li Zihang nodded, took the information, and left. After returning to the office, Li Zihang spent 2 hours reading the project documents and then made some modifications to the project. By the time the modification was completed, it was already noon. He originally wanted to go to the company cafeteria, but before he left the office, he received a FaceTime message from Anya. Come to my office. Without thinking too much, Li Zihang entered the elevator and came to the floor where Anya was. As soon as I entered the president's office, I saw 4 exquisite dishes and 1 soup placed on the coffee table in the negotiation area. Anya was sitting on the sofa, setting the table. Seeing Li Zihang coming in, she looked up and smiled. Why are you still standing there? Come and have dinner. Don't you want to have dinner with me? Li Zihang was a little confused, but still walked over. Anya remained silent and did not respond to this question. The two of them didn't speak and ate quietly. At this time, Anya suddenly thought of something, so she took the initiative to say, I have contacted my friend, and she asked us to talk in person after get off work. Li Zihang replied, Okay, then I'll tell Jasmine to come over after school. No, we can just go. Anya's answer surprised Li Zihang. Fearing that Li Zihang might misunderstand, Anya explained, My friend doesn't like to talk about work after get off work. If Jasmine goes, she will be unhappy. So, what are we going to do? Li Zihang became more and more confused. Anya smoothed her hair and smiled. Silly, of course we'll have a meal together and catch up. By the way, I'll mention Jasmine's matter. If I take the initiative to ask, how can she not talk about it? Okay, thank you for your help. Hearing this, Li Zihang didn't say anything more. In the afternoon, Li Zihang found a few employees from the marketing department and wanted them to accompany him to the economic development zone. But without exception, these people said that they were busy with work and had no time, and asked Li Zihang to find someone else. At this time, the marketing staff sitting in the booth by the window stood up and said with a smile, Deputy Manager Li, we have a lot of work on hand. If you really can't wait, you can go by yourself. Li Zihang didn't know the employee's name, but he had some impression of him, because he was the one who gave Zhou Shuai advice downstairs in the company last time. Li Zihang frowned slightly, but was not angry. When he saw that no employee was willing to go out with him, he realized that these people were deliberately targeting him. Although he could use his authority as deputy department manager to force them, he did not do so. Since these people are waiting to laugh at him, he will slap them in the face with the results. It just so happens that this project can also be used to make them realize their own abilities and establish their prestige at the same time. Thinking of this, Li Zihang no longer wasted time and turned around to leave. At this time, a young man with an intern badge suddenly raised his hand and said, Deputy Manager, can I go with you? Li Ziheng looked over when he heard the voice and saw a young man in a black suit and tie, staring at him with a flushed face. Sure, come with me. Li Ziheng nodded with a smile. When the intern heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up and he immediately stood up and left with Li Ziheng. At this time, Zhou Shuai's face darkened, and he suddenly said in a cold voice, Su Chuang, have you finished the work I assigned to you? As soon as he finished speaking, many people stopped what they were doing and looked at the intern Su Chuang. There were also a few people who secretly observed Li Ziheng's expression. Su Chuang blushed and replied, Team leader, I just finished the work you assigned to me this morning. That's perfect. I have some document sorting work to do. If you are free, please take care of it. Print out the sorted documents and put them on my desk before you leave work. Zhou Shuai stood up with a grim face and slammed a thick stack of information heavily on Su Chuang's workstation. Su Chuang's face turned pale instantly. There was so much information that he couldn't sort it out in one afternoon. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhou Shuai was deliberately bullying the interns. But due to Zhou Shuai's identity as team leader, no one stood up to speak for Su Chuang. Team leader, there is so much information. Can I sort it out for you before I get off work tomorrow? Su Chuang looked embarrassed. There is so much information to be sorted out, and I have to read and organize it bit by bit. Not to mention, before get off work tomorrow, it will be a problem whether I can finish sorting it out before get off work the day after tomorrow. I see you're quite efficient. I believe you have the ability. Keep going. Don't let me down. Zhou Shuai sneered, turned around, and walked towards his workstation. When he passed by Li Ziheng, a disdainful arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. Chapter 48. Would you like to consider a meal with your best friend? Zhou Shuai is provoking Li Ziheng. The employees in the marketing department all noticed it. At this time, everyone was very curious about how Li Ziheng would respond. Etc. Li Ziheng turned around and patted Zhou Shuai's shoulder with his palm. His tone was a little cold. Team leader Zhou, right? I see you are quite free, so I'll leave the job of sorting out the information to you. Deputy Manager Li, the work of organizing the data is all done by interns. You don't know this, do you? Zhou Shuai turned around, held his head high with a smug look on his face, and retorted without any hesitation. In an instant, the huge marketing department was filled with tension. Some of Zhou Shuai's loyal colleagues even secretly gave him a thumbs up. Whether you know or not is my business, but as the deputy manager of the department, I should have the right to assign work to you, right? Li Ziheng had no expression on his face and said calmly, or does team leader Zhou no longer want to do this job and want to resign? You're using your power to pressure me? Zhou Shuai's face turned a little blue. Li Ziheng smiled. He did not explain, but said coldly, I just treated you the way you treat your subordinates. Why are you still angry? Zhou Shuai said angrily. Deputy Manager Li, I've been working at Yunhai for 3 years and could be considered an old employee. Are you sure you want to embarrass me like this? Before leaving work, finish organizing the information. If you don't do it well, you don't have to come tomorrow. Li Ziheng was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. After leaving a word, he took Su Chuang away from the marketing department. Zhou Shuai's face suddenly turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. He originally wanted to give Li Ziheng a warning, but he didn't expect that Li Ziheng would not give him any face at all and directly use the power of deputy manager to suppress him. At this time, several colleagues who were on good terms with him came over. Zhou Shuai, don't be angry. I heard that Manager Liu gave him the project in the economic development zone. Everyone knows how difficult this project is. With his ability, he will definitely fail. When he messes up this project, we will go to Manager Liu and complain about him, saying that he is incompetent and cannot be a leader. Yes, I've learned about this project. It seems that some underground forces are involved. He will definitely suffer a great loss if he goes there this time. After hearing several colleagues say this, Zhou Shuai felt much better. The economic development zone was originally an urban village and was later invested and developed as part of the city's expansion. But there are a lot of ruffians and scoundrels in places like urban villages. Some companies wanted to invest there before, but because the ruffians caused trouble and asked for exorbitant prices, many companies failed in their investments. Yunhai was just trying to develop the market there this time, so Manager Liu, the head of the marketing department, didn't actually hold out much hope. That's why he gave this project to Li Ziheng. After all, Manager Liu just wanted to give Li Ziheng a warning. Old employees or staff who are familiar with the market and the economic development zone all understand this. Of course, Li Ziheng, as the person involved, also learned part of the information from the information. Therefore, he thought about going there in person to see if he could solve the problem of the ruffians. Downstairs in the company, Li Ziheng originally wanted to take a taxi to the economic development zone. But to his surprise, Su Chuang, an intern, actually had a domestically produced car worth about 100,000 yuan. Deputy manager, where are we going? Su Chuang turned on the car navigation and asked cautiously. Li Ziheng fastened his seatbelt and asked with a smile, are there any good places to eat and have fun in the economic development zone? There's a popular barbecue restaurant over there and a newly opened entertainment city. Su Chuang talked about many places as if he knew them all by heart. Li Ziheng was somewhat surprised by this answer. He didn't expect Su Chuang to know so much. As if he could see what Li Ziheng was thinking, Su Chuang scratched his head and said awkwardly, my girlfriend lives there. Her house was demolished last year and cost more than 10 million yuan. She bought me this car. Li Ziheng smiled and joked. That's pretty good. With a girlfriend who is a second-generation demolition worker. Why do you still have to work? I'm a man. My girlfriend's family situation has nothing to do with me. I want to earn money and buy a house with my own ability. Su Chuang felt a little embarrassed. You have guts. Li Ziheng gave him a thumbs up and then asked Su Chuang to go to the economic development zone first. To conduct market research, one needs to collect information from many aspects, and the information manager Liu gave him was not comprehensive. So he had to go there in person. This area of economic development is full of new buildings, including commercial areas and residential areas, but there are not many people and the traffic is not large. After Li Ziheng asked Su Chuang to park the car on the side of the road, he took him to some snack bars along the way to eat delicious food and chat with the proprietresses. It was not until after 4 o'clock in the afternoon that Li Ziheng and Su Chuang sat down in a milk tea shop. Su Chuang ordered 2 cups of fruit tea, while Li Ziheng took out a pen and paper and started taking notes. In one afternoon, Li Ziheng collected a lot of useful information from some vendors and passersby. The main reason why the economic development zone is difficult to develop is that there is a local gang in this area. Moreover, the members of these gangs, including their bosses, are all people whose homes have been relocated. For them, the economic development zone is their territory. If outsiders want to invest here, they must reach a cooperation agreement with them. It is called cooperation, but in fact it just means paying them a certain amount of protection fee every year. Su Chuang placed a cup of fruit tea in front of Li Ziheng and asked with some concern, Brother Hung, do you think it is necessary to continue this project? For an entire afternoon, he followed Li Ziheng and naturally learned about the situation in the development zone from the vendors and passersby. According to his idea, the development zone was too chaotic. It would be too difficult to invest, develop the market, and build a processing plant. It would be better to give up directly. The urban construction and environment in this area are very good. The subway is also very convenient, and there is great potential for development. Li Ziheng smiled. Through the information, as well as his own observations and research today, he is very sure that the economic development zone has great potential in the future. However, if you want to open up the market in this area and establish processing factories for stationery, clothing, furniture, etc., you must first resolve some unstable factors, such as underground gangs. After drinking the fruit tea, Li Ziheng let Su Chuang go home directly. He was about to take a taxi back to the company, but just then Anya called, Where are you? Why aren't you in the company all afternoon? I'm in the economic development zone. I came here this afternoon to do some market research. Send me your location, and I'll pick you up. After hanging up the phone, Li Ziheng sent a message to Jasmine, telling her that he would not be home for dinner that night. About 20 minutes later, Anya arrived. As soon as Li Ziheng got in the car, Anya started complaining. For work like market research, you can just ask your subordinates to do it. Is it necessary to do it yourself? It's so boring to sit in the office every day. It's a good time to come out and get some fresh air. Li Ziheng responded with a smile. The two chatted for a while in the car. When Anya learned that Li Ziheng accepted the Economic Development Zone project, she smiled. You're lucky. The friend I introduced to you, who runs a live broadcast company, happens to have connections with some forces in the development zone. If you perform well tonight, maybe the project can be completed soon. Hearing this, Li Ziheng looked surprised. Then Anya explained. My friend's father is the boss of the underground forces in this area. As long as she is willing to help, this project will definitely succeed. Otherwise, why do you think I want to invest in a processing plant here? No wonder. Li Ziheng suddenly realized. Soon, Anya brought Li Ziheng to a high-end Western restaurant and met the friend Anya mentioned. The two came to the dining table near the floor-to-ceiling window in the restaurant and saw a beautiful woman with long, wavy purple hair waving at them from afar. As soon as she approached, the beautiful woman with long purple hair glared at Anya with an unhappy look on her face. Xiaoya, you little bitch, it's been over a month since you thought of asking me out. What's the matter? Are you in love? Have you forgotten about your sisters now that you have a man? As she spoke, she turned her gaze to Li Ziheng, who was following Anya. She was stunned at just one glance. After all, Li Ziheng is extremely outstanding in terms of height, appearance, and temperament, and gives the impression of a rich and noble young man. Li Ziheng was just about to take the initiative to say hello when he heard the purple-haired beauty exclaim, "Fuck, you little girl, you eat so well." This sentence made Li Ziheng feel embarrassed. Anya covered her mouth and laughed, pulled Li Ziheng to sit down, and introduced the two to each other. "Let me introduce you. This is my best friend Dong Qianqian, and this is my good brother Li Ziheng." As soon as Anya finished speaking, Dong Qianqian rolled her eyes and said unhappily, "Bah, is it necessary to abuse the dog like this? Are you okay, brother? Are you cheesy?" Anya smiled nonchalantly. Li Ziheng nodded with a smile, stretched out his hand to Dong Qianqian, and said, "Hello." Dong Qianqian extended her hand gracefully, shook hands with Li Ziheng, and threw a wink. "Hello, handsome boy. Would you like to consider a meal with your best friend?" Chapter 49, Two Women and One Man, Hot Spring Club. Puff! Anya picked up the water cup and just took a sip. She suddenly heard her best friend's words and immediately spit it out. She quickly wiped the corner of her mouth with a napkin, glared at Dong Qianqian unhappily, and shouted angrily, "Say that again. Be careful, or I'll tear your mouth apart." Eh! Dong Qianqian made a disgusted expression. Then he laughed carelessly. "Are you protecting him already? It seems like you care about him a lot." Perhaps because they hadn't seen each other for a long time, the two sisters had a very happy chat. We talked about everything from our school days to starting our own businesses after graduation. Li Ziheng sat aside, feeling that it was a bit unnecessary for him to come here today. But during their conversation, Li Ziheng learned a lot about Anya's past. From Dong Qianqian, Li Ziheng learned that Anya was known as the campus beauty when she was in college and had countless suitors, but she had never been in a relationship. For this reason, Dong Qianqian kept complaining that she used to doubt Anya's sexual orientation. Dong Qianqian cut a small piece of steak and put it into her mouth, then asked vaguely, "By the way, Xiaoya, your half-sister, did she cause you any trouble later?" The smile on Anya's face froze for a moment, and she shook her head and said, "She is no longer a child. Let's not talk about this. What do you think of the female anchor I recommended to you? She has a good foundation, is very pure, and sings very well. You can sign her, but friendship is friendship. If she doesn't do well, I won't lower my standards for your sake." When it comes to business, Dong Qianqian's attitude obviously becomes a little different. Yes, as entrepreneurial women, both Anya and Dong Qianqian have their own principles in doing things. "Of course, but there is one more thing I want to ask you for help with." Anya smiled and changed the topic to the project in the economic development zone. "Brother, you are in charge of this project now. You know more than me. Why don't you talk to Qianqian about it?" "Good." Seeing that they were finally talking about business, Li Ziheng nodded immediately and expressed his thoughts. Dong Qianqian stopped what she was doing and listened quietly. Her expression seemed very serious, and her pair of eyes that seemed to emit electricity stayed on Li Ziheng's face the whole time. "Ms. Dong, I have said everything I need to say about this project. What do you think?" Li Ziheng spoke for half an hour, covering almost everything, from small details to future market prospects. After saying this, he waited for Dong Qianqian's opinion. But what Li Ziheng never expected was that what Dong Qianqian said had nothing to do with the topic he was discussing. "You seem even more charming when you speak seriously." Li Ziheng. Faced with Dong Qianqian's inconsistent response, Li Ziheng felt helpless. He turned and gave Anya a look for help. Anya shrugged and said with a smile, "It's okay. That's just her personality, but she listened to what you just said." After saying that, she looked at Dong Qianqian and said, "Qianqian, tell me what you think. Is it necessary to carry out this project? If you say no, then I could just give up this project. It's not a big problem, but I have to go back and discuss it with my brother first." Dong Qianqian did not give an accurate answer. It's not that she doesn't want to help Anya and Li Ziheng, but her say in this matter doesn't count. In the past, her father had the final say in the economic development zone, but half a year ago, her father had some health problems, and he handed over the power to her younger brother Dong Zhais. Dong Zhais is 25 years old this year, but he has too little social experience, no sense of the overall situation, and no foresight. He only wants to make money. This is also the main reason why many companies that want to invest in economic development zones and expand markets have ended up in failure. To sum it up in one sentence, this kid is too greedy and wants too much. Your brother? Anya's expression was a little unnatural. I was already thinking of backing out. Dong Qianqian nodded and said with a look of disdain, "Yes, my brother. He is the idiot who's been trying to chase you like a dog." The corner of Li Ziheng's mouth twitched slightly. Is it really okay to disparage your own brother in front of your bestie and outsiders? Then why not just forget it? Anya frowned slightly and wanted to give up. Are you scared? Seeing this, Dong Qianqian laughed and said soothingly, "Don't worry. Even though this kid is a bit fierce, he will still listen to what I say." I hope so. Anya smiled bitterly. After dinner, Anya wanted to take Li Ziheng away. After all, she had to go to work tomorrow. But Dong Qianqian was not happy. Why are you leaving? We haven't seen each other for more than a month. You must have fun with me today. As soon as the three of them walked out of the restaurant, Dong Qianqian grabbed Anya's arm and forced her into her car. Anya couldn't resist and had to sacrifice her life to accompany the gentleman. Li Ziheng didn't want to get involved and prepared to hail a taxi to go back and rest. But as soon as he reached the side of the road, someone slapped him hard on the butt. Pa! Li Ziheng was dumbfounded. He subconsciously took a step forward, then turned around and glared at the person behind him who was making a move on him. When he saw that the person was Dong Qianqian, the anger on Li Ziheng's face instantly disappeared, replaced by surprise and confusion. "Miss Dong, what do you mean?" "Li Ziheng, right? Who told you to leave? Anya has helped you so much. Are you ashamed to leave her alone?" Dong Qianqian crossed her arms and said, "In this situation, shouldn't you behave yourself and be Anya's protector?" Li Ziheng frowned slightly. "It's not appropriate for me, a man, to follow you two girls out to play. We didn't say anything, but you think it's inappropriate? Okay, stop nagging and get in the car. Don't force me to beat you up." Dong Qianqian was a little impatient. She grabbed Li Ziheng's wrist and walked back. This action made Li Ziheng feel a little uncomfortable. But she was too enthusiastic and aggressive, and Li Ziheng was eventually stuffed into the car. Dong Qianqian was driving, Anya was sitting in the passenger seat, and Li Ziheng was sitting in the back seat. The two women laughed and talked freely along the way, even discussing some more private topics, and seemed to have completely forgotten that there was a man sitting in the back. Li Ziheng was very embarrassed, and he regretted coming here today. After more than an hour, the car stopped. After getting off the car, Li Ziheng was surprised to find that Dong Qianqian actually brought him and Anya to a hot spring club. "Good evening, Miss Dong." As soon as the three of them walked to the entrance of the club, the female receptionists on both sides bowed and greeted them. Anya explained to Li Ziheng in a low voice, "Qianqian is a small shareholder of this hot spring club. She comes here to relax in the hot springs on weekends when she has nothing to do." The hot spring club is very well decorated. If measured by star standards, it is at least 4-star and close to 5-star standards. Unlike general mid-range hot spring clubs, the consumption here is not low, so most of the people who come here to soak in the hot springs are rich people. When the three of them entered the hot spring club, Li Ziheng suddenly heard a familiar voice. Following the sound, I saw two familiar faces, Jiang Wan and Cheng Hao. At this moment, the two of them were chatting and laughing while applying for membership cards at the front desk. "Ma'am, this is your membership card. After deducting the card fee, there is a balance of 49,800 yuan on the card." "Thanks." Jiang Wan took the membership card and handed it to Cheng Hao with a smile. Cheng Hao deliberately declined twice, but finally accepted it. At this time, the elevator just arrived at the first floor, and Li Ziheng entered the elevator with Dong Qianqian and Anya. At the same time, Jiang Wan and Cheng Hao also walked towards this side. When Jiang Wan saw the elevator door closing quickly, she was stunned for a moment. She seemed to have just seen Li Ziheng. Cheng Hao asked softly, "What's wrong, Wana?" "I seem to have seen Li Ziheng just now." Jiang Wan shook her head and quickly denied this possibility. She said, "It must be that he is dazzled. Considering Li Ziheng's current condition, he would definitely not come to such a high-cost place." Cheng Hao's eyes flickered, and he asked tentatively, "Wanner, you are not still obsessed with that scumbag Li Ziheng, are you?" Jiang Wan's eyes flashed with a complicated look, and she said in a cold voice, "How could it be? We have already gone through the divorce procedure, and the divorce certificate will be issued in more than half a month. You should know me. I will never go back to my husband. Unterstrich x 001 0 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 unterstrich x 0. Chapter 52 Beauties, each with their own merits. There are separate areas for men and women in the Hot Spring Club, but there are also mixed areas for men and women. As a small shareholder of this club, Dong Chantian used 1 year's dividends to build a small hot spring pool exclusively for her own personal use. After the three of them arrived at the 3rd floor, Li Ziheng followed the waiter to the bathroom. After taking a shower, he changed into the swimming trunks brought by the waiter and came to the hot spring pool area. The hot spring pool is not big, only about 50 square meters. But the surrounding landscape design is very good, with pavilions, rockery, flowing water, and green plants. It was obviously custom-made by a professional designer. When Li Ziheng arrived, Anya and Dong Chantian had not come yet, so he simply took a bath alone. After waiting for about 5 minutes, I saw Anya and Dong Chantian, who had arrived late. Both of them were wearing swimsuits. Anya's swimsuit was a black one with lace edges. Her skin was already very fair, and after putting on the black swimsuit, her skin looked even whiter than snow. With her tall figure, long hair, curvy body, and slender waist that could be held in one hand, as soon as she appeared, Li Ziheng's eyes were uncontrollably attracted to her. I have to say that Anya's skin is really good. Not only is it white, but also very smooth. Under the light, her whole body seems to be glowing, extremely dazzling. Unconsciously, Li Ziheng was staring into a trance. He totally failed to notice Anya's blushing cheeks. At this moment, Dong Chantian's voice suddenly rang out. "Hey, your eyeballs are about to fall out." Ahem. Li Ziheng suddenly came to his senses, smiled awkwardly, and quickly shifted his gaze. He inadvertently caught a glimpse of Dong Chantian out of the corner of his eye, and then he immediately covered his nose, fearing that he would lose control and have a nosebleed. Dong Chantian not only has a carefree personality, but the swimsuit she wears is also extremely bold. The two small triangles of cloth perfectly cover the bulge, and the lower body is even a T-style. If it were just that, Li Ziheng would not have lost his composure like this, but Dong Chantian's scale was extremely huge. Her skin was also quite fair, but compared to Anya, her complexion was obviously a shade lighter. But her figure is not bad either, especially her breathtaking size, which is really a bit unfair. Li Ziheng didn't dare to look any longer, for he was afraid that he couldn't bear it. What's the difference between wearing this and not wearing it? It's so torturous. Li Ziheng tried hard to control his breathing and tried his best not to think about things that are not suitable for children. But when he finally calmed down, Anya and Dong Chantian, whether intentionally or unintentionally, sat on his left and right sides respectively. The hot spring pool is oval in shape. When Li Ziheng looks to the left, he can see Anya, and when he looks to the right, he can see Dong Chantian. Men will subconsciously look at women's figures, and similarly, women will subconsciously secretly look at men's figures. However, Anya and Dong Chantian were obviously not ordinary women. They did not look at him secretly, but openly. Although Anya had seen it once before, it was too hasty and she couldn't see it clearly. This time there was a chance, so she naturally wouldn't miss it. TSK, TSK, TSK. Xiaoya, your good brother has an amazing figure. Not only does he have a perky, but he even has abdominal muscles. Dong Chantian commented on Li Ziheng's figure like a female gangster without any hesitation. As she spoke, her eyes kept looking underwater. Li Ziheng closed his legs awkwardly. He wanted to escape, but now was not the right time. He had to slow down first. Anya chuckled and raised her eyebrows proudly. "You can question my emotional intelligence, but you can never question my vision." Dong Chantian stared at Li Ziheng with burning eyes. The heat in her eyes was not concealed. "How about I also find a boyfriend, and then we can switch?" "You wish. I'm not as perverted as you." Anya was immediately unhappy. "Tisk, who's playing a pervert? Don't talk nonsense. I've only had one relationship since I was a child, and the result was..." Dong Chantian retorted subconsciously, but she spoke too quickly and brought up a topic that made her feel very upset. Li Ziheng saw an opportunity to divert attention, so he quickly followed up her question and asked, "What's the result?" "I won't tell you." A blush of shame and anger flashed across Dong Chantian's face. Anya laughed softly. So her boyfriend, whom she had been dating for half a year, actually... you were not allowed to say that. Seeing that Anya was about to expose her embarrassing story, Dong Chantian became anxious. She turned into a screaming chicken and rushed towards Anya. But because there was still some distance between them, and there was resistance when walking in the hot spring, by the time she pounced on him, Anya had already said the rest of the words. Dong Qianqian had a boyfriend in college. He was a very fair-skinned boy. He looks very weak and quiet, similar to the handsome young man on the screen today, and is very popular with girls. Moreover, his personality is completely opposite to Dong Qianqian's. One is enthusiastic, generous, and carefree, while the other is quiet and introverted. They have a very good relationship and have been dating for more than half a year without ever quarreling. Originally, this relationship was very beautiful, but who could have thought that the final result would be so unexpected? One weekend, Anya accompanied Dong Qianqian to the mall for shopping, but accidentally ran into Dong Qianqian's boyfriend and another man walking hand in hand on the street. The two behaved very intimately and even fed each other French fries. Dong Qianqian and Anya were stunned. After privately finding out, I learned that Dong Qianqian's boyfriend had problems with his sexual orientation. He had agreed to date Dong Qianqian just to hide the truth and not to be considered an outsider by his roommates. After learning the truth, Dong Qianqian beat him directly into the hospital. But she did not disclose her ex-boyfriend's privacy. Because of this, all the boys were afraid to approach her during college. Even though she has a great body and is the type that countless men desire, boys are still very wary of her. After all, no one wants to be beaten into the hospital by his girlfriend for no reason. After this emotional experience, Dong Qianqian gave up her plan to fall in love and devoted herself to studying and making money. After learning about Dong Qianqian's first love experience, Li Ziheng couldn't help but feel a little sympathy for this big-breasted beauty. "You stupid girl, how could you tell him such a thing? I'm going to tear your mouth apart today." Dong Qianqian's face turned red, and she started to fight with Anya in the hot spring pool. Of course, they were not really fighting, they were just playing around. However, Dong Qianqian was wearing too little fabric, so for Li Ziheng, this playfulness was a visual feast and a blessing from heaven. However, after just watching for a while, Li Ziheng suddenly felt a heat in his nose, and then he started bleeding from the nose. "You guys soak first, I'm going to the bathroom." Li Ziheng covered his nose with one hand and his crotch with the other and fled. As soon as he stepped out of the hot spring pool, he heard Anya's giggles and Dong Qianqian's unbridled ridicule from behind him. Shameful. How shameful. Li Ziheng was extremely embarrassed. After finally stopping the nosebleed, he hesitated for a long time and decided not to go back. "If I go back to soak in the hot spring again, I might have a nosebleed again. Even if I don't, Dong Qianqian will laugh at me." He put on a bathrobe and went to the restaurant on the second floor of the hot spring club. After scanning the code and ordering a blood-replenishing meal, Li Ziheng also ordered a bottle of ice-cold beer to cool himself down. Just as he put down his phone, he suddenly heard a voice that disgusted him coming from beside him. "Hey, Li Ziheng, why are you here?" "It's Chung Hao." Chung Hao was walking past his dining table with a glass of warm milk. Li Ziheng saw Jiang Wan and Chung Hao when he arrived, so he was not too surprised to run into Chung Hao in the restaurant. "I can't be here." He raised his head and glanced at Chung Hao calmly. "Chung Hao, what's wrong?" At this time, Jiang Wan also came over and discovered Li Ziheng. When she saw Li Ziheng, Jiang Wan frowned slightly, and a smile appeared between her brows. "Li Ziheng, it really is you. I thought I was seeing things just now. Are you okay?" Li Ziheng looked impatient. He really didn't want to have any contact with Jiang Wan. As deeply as he loved Jiang Wan before, he now despised her. Seeing the impatient expression on Li Ziheng's face, Jiang Wan raised a smug smile. "Don't pretend, Li Ziheng. I know you appeared here just to create the illusion of an encounter with me." She paused and suddenly said with great conviction, "Actually, you have been secretly paying attention to me, right?" Chapter 51, Self-Righteous Jiang Wan. As soon as Jiang Wan finished speaking, Li Ziheng was stunned. He didn't expect Jiang Wan to say such self-righteous words. Seeing that Li Ziheng remained silent, Jiang Wan became more certain of her judgment. The corners of her lips raised even higher, and she looked down at Li Ziheng, her eyes full of confidence and pride. "Li Ziheng, I told you that you will regret divorcing me sooner or later. Do you regret it now?" As soon as these words were spoken, Chung Hao's face on the side suddenly became extremely ugly. If Li Ziheng and Jiang Wan get back together, his plans will be disrupted, which he cannot accept. So he immediately said, "Wanner, didn't you say that you would never go back to your ex?" Jiang Wan's expression changed slightly, and a look of struggle appeared on her face. She was indeed annoyed by what Li Ziheng had done during this period, especially his frequent contact with the opposite sex. But she also missed Li Ziheng's meticulous care for her. During this period, without Li Ziheng at home, her life was almost a mess. If possible, she really wanted to get back together with Li Ziheng. After all, although Li Ziheng has no ability to make money, he is a gentle, considerate, and caring husband. Warner, he's a scumbag. Don't be deceived by him again. Chung Hao was a little anxious. After saying that, he glared at Li Ziheng fiercely and angrily said, Li Ziheng, are you still a man? You're divorced, but you're still clinging to Warner like this. Don't you think it's disgusting? You two are playing a double act here? Li Ziheng frowned and glanced at Chung Hao with disdain. Chung Hao was about to retort, but Li Ziheng ignored him and turned to look at Jiang Wan, saying coldly, Who gave you the confidence to think that I am paying attention to you? Jiang Wan looked like she saw through everything and sneered. I've seen through everything. What else do you have to argue about? If it wasn't for me, why did you come here? Li Ziheng said, Can't I just come here with a friend? Jiang Wan shook her head and chuckled. Friends? What friends? You are obviously alone, aren't you? Li Ziheng said impatiently. Who I accompany is none of your business. Please go away and don't affect my appetite. He had a gloomy face and was no longer willing to continue talking nonsense with Jiang Wan. Jiang Wan frowned and said in a tone that was almost scolding, Li Ziheng, that's enough. If you keep this attitude, I will never turn back. If you still want me to get back together with you, put away your little tricks and don't play hard to get in front of me. It's very childish, understand? After saying that, Jiang Wan ignored Li Ziheng's increasingly ugly expression and sat directly in the seat opposite Li Ziheng. Seeing this, Chung Hao also sat down, but he deliberately sat next to Jiang Wan. As soon as he sat down, he glared at Li Ziheng with a resentful look. Li Ziheng was very depressed by these two shameless people, so he waved to the waiter. Soon, the waiter came over. With a professional smile on his face, he bowed and said, Hello, sir. How can I help you? I don't know these two people. Can you please ask them to go somewhere else? Don't let them disturb my meal. Li Ziheng pointed at Jiang Wan, who was sitting opposite him with a proud look on her face, and Chung Hao, who had a constipated expression on his face. Upon hearing this, the waiter looked at Jiang Wan and Chung Hao in surprise, and then politely said, Sir, madam, there are still many seats over there. Please don't disturb other guests' meals. Thank you. Li Ziheng, what do you mean? Jiang Wan's face suddenly became extremely ugly. She didn't expect that Li Ziheng would actually ask the waiter to chase her away. Li Ziheng said coldly, What do you mean? Don't you understand what I'm saying? I want you to disappear from my sight and don't affect my appetite. Jiang Wan was so angry that her face turned green. She stood up, pointed her finger at Li Ziheng, and said angrily, Li Ziheng, do you have to be so excessive? I've already sat down and wanted to give you another chance to step aside. Why are you unwilling to admit your mistake? Jiang Wan, did your brain get soaked in hot spring water? Why should I admit my mistake? Li Ziheng laughed out of anger, looked at Chung Hao, whose face was extremely ugly, and sneered. Or do you think that everyone is like this licking dog beside you, who has to stick to you, licking you? Li Ziheng. Jiang Wan's chest was heaving with anger. She wanted to say something else, but at this moment, two beautiful figures were already walking towards her. The people who came were Anya and her best friend Dong Qianqian. As soon as Dong Qianqian arrived, she came closer to Li Ziheng enthusiastically and looked at Jiang Wan and Chung Hao with a smile. Handsome guy, are they your friends? Who is she? When she saw Dong Qianqian, Jiang Wan's face turned pale. She already believed that Li Ziheng came here with his friends. At this time, Anya also came over and sat down in the empty seat next to Li Ziheng. Qianqian, let me introduce you. This is Jiang Wan, Li Ziheng's ex-wife. The one next to her, is a male mistress. When she talked about the male mistress, she obviously slowed down her tone, but her voice became noticeably louder. Anyone who is not blind can see the contempt and disgust in her eyes. Chung Hao's already ugly expression became even uglier after hearing Anya's introduction. Mr. In, please be careful with your words. Warner and I are just very good friends. He tried to defend himself, but Dong Qianqian was interested. She scanned Chung Hao with her beautiful fox eyes and frowned. He's average-looking, not as tall as Li Ziheng, and his figure isn't as good as Li Ziheng's. Is she blind? She divorced Li Ziheng for such an ugly man? You. Chung Hao's face turned red, and he pointed at Dong Qianqian and wanted to curse. But because Jiangwan was still beside him, he had to try hard to maintain his gentlemanly image. What's going on? The noise here was so loud that even the manager of the hot spring club was alarmed. The manager came over and was about to ask about the situation here, but after seeing Dong Qianqian, he immediately laughed. Ms. Dong, you're here? Dong Qianqian smiled lightly, then pointed at Cheng Hao, who was trying to control his emotions, and said, Manager Shui, you've come at the right time. Please kick this male mistress out. His presence here seriously affects the quality of our club. Okay, Miss Dong. Manager Shui nodded and made a gesture of invitation to Cheng Hao. Sir, please leave. Cheng Hao's face flushed, and he angrily said, We are consumers, and we have also applied for membership cards. Is this how you treat members? Without waiting for Manager Shui to speak, Dong Qianqian said directly, Oh, you got a membership card? Then Manager Shui, please help him cancel the membership card later. I will pay for the loss. Okay, Miss Dong. Manager Shui smiled and nodded. If Dong Qianqian hadn't said this, he might have had a hard time handling the matter. But since Dong Qianqian said so, he no longer had any worries. Immediately, he called 2 security guards and asked them to carry Cheng Hao out. Cheng Hao struggled continuously, but due to his small stature and lack of strength, he was forcibly driven out of the club by 2 burly security guards. Jiangwan did not stop him. She clenched her teeth and kept her eyes on Li Ziheng's face. Li Ziheng, embarrassing Cheng Hao in public and making me lose face. Is this the result you wanted? Chapter 52, me and her, whose legs are better looking? Shouldn't you ask yourself this question? I just said that I came here to accompany my friends, not to create a chance encounter with you. It's you who doesn't believe it, isn't it? Li Ziheng's eyes were calm, and he continued, Also, let me say it again, I don't need you to give me a way out, nor do I need your so-called opportunity. We are a thing of the past. I'm not a trash can, and I don't recycle trash. Please don't come near me shamelessly in the future. After saying that, Li Ziheng withdrew his gaze and no longer looked at Jiangwan. Jiangwan clenched her fists, her eyes reddened. She stared at Li Ziheng and was about to say something. At this time, Dong Qianqian hugged Li Ziheng's arm and rubbed it against him deliberately with her chest. Good brother, your ex-wife is far inferior to the 2 of us. From now on, just stay with us, and we will support you. Li Ziheng's ears turned red. He wanted to pull his arms out of Dong Qianqian's arms, but Dong Qianqian held him even tighter. Helplessly, Li Ziheng turned to Anya and looked for help. Anya's behavior left Li Ziheng stunned. Anya followed Dong Qianqian's lead and hugged Li Ziheng's other arm. Brother, don't listen to her nonsense. She is a bad woman. I'm the only one who truly treats you well. You should just be with me from now on. Bah, you stupid girl. I treat you as a sister, but you want to eat alone? Dong Qianqian was furious. Anya chuckled. Seeing Li Ziheng being clingy to Anya and Dong Qianqian like this, Jiang Wan's back teeth were almost broken. She doesn't understand. Forget about Song Yi. Why is it that Yunhai's President Anya is so shameless and pesters Li Ziheng, a divorced man? Li Ziheng, I misjudged you before. Cheng Hao is right. You are a fickle scumbag. A man like you is not worthy of me, Jiangwan. Giving you a chance. Jiangwan said this angrily, and then left in disappointment. After she left, Li Ziheng immediately stood up, broke free from the 2 vixens, and sat down opposite them. He sighed softly. You 2 are overacting. TSK, you don't know what's good for you. We sisters are kind enough to help you get revenge on your ex-wife. Shouldn't you thank us? Dong Qianqian rolled her eyes at Li Ziheng, then continued, Forget it. Since you're a handsome guy, I'll forgive you this time, but don't do it again. Hearing this, 3 black lines suddenly appeared on Li Ziheng's forehead. Anya asked cautiously, Brother, that woman is taking a hot spring bath with another man. You are not still obsessed with her, are you? Li Ziheng replied without hesitation. Don't talk nonsense. I've given up on her a long time ago. Now I only feel disgust towards her. Dong Qianqian winked at Li Ziheng. What about us? Li Zing. After having a simple meal, the 3 of them returned to the guest room of the hot spring club. It was too late, and it was impossible to go back, and Dong Qianqian wouldn't agree. There was no other choice. Li Ziheng had to book a guest room in the hot spring club. The reason why only 1 room was booked was because Dong Qianqian had her own exclusive guest room in the hot spring club, and Anya was pulled to sleep with her. Back in the guest room, Li Ziheng lay on the big white bed and took out his cell phone to watch Jasmine's live broadcast tonight. There were only 100 or so people in the live broadcast room, and there wasn't much reward. Occasionally, someone would post messages on the public screen, but most of them were just some meaningless compliments. The song she sang was a classic old song, falling in love with someone who doesn't come home. Falling in love with someone who doesn't come home, waiting for a door that doesn't open. Her singing voice is beautiful and full of emotion. Just listening to the song gives me an inexplicable feeling of sadness. Seeing that there were not many rewards, Lee Ziheng topped up some money in his Douyin wallet and gave out a dozen gifts. Thank you for the tip from my heart will go on. If you like to listen to my singing, you can click to follow me. On the phone screen, Jasmine tilted her head and smiled sweetly, revealing two cute little fangs. Lee Ziheng quickly edited a message and sent it out. It's late, stop live streaming and go to bed early. Seeing this message, Jasmine was stunned for a moment, and she reached out and clicked on the homepage of Lee Ziheng's Douyin account. Lee Ziheng's homepage is very clean, with no information, and even his profile picture is a photo of a seaside landscape. Jasmine had a hunch that the user with the ID My Heart is Eternal was Lee Ziheng. Thinking of this, Jasmine asked tentatively, "Brother, is that you?" Lee Ziheng replied with a hmm. After simply sending out the word hmm, Jasmine's eyes suddenly lit up. She asked happily, "Brother, when will you come back? I have something urgent tonight, so I won't go back. Go to bed early and see you tomorrow." After sending this message, Lee Ziheng quickly exited the live broadcast room. There is no way, because someone in the live broadcast room has already started asking about the relationship between Lee Ziheng and Jasmine. Lee Ziheng exited the live broadcast room, but Jasmine did not close it immediately. When she saw someone asking about her relationship with Lee Ziheng on the public screen, a happy smile appeared on Jasmine's face. She blinked her sparkling eyes and smiled sweetly. "He's a very important person to me." After that, she added, "Okay, friends, today's live broadcast ends here. My brother asked me to go to bed early. Good night, everyone." After turning off the live broadcast function, Jasmine picked up her mobile phone, walked out of the room, and went straight to Lee Ziheng's bedroom. Although Lee Ziheng would not be back tonight, Jasmine still chose to sleep in Lee Ziheng's room. She covered herself with the blanket that Lee Ziheng had used, hugged the pillow that Lee Ziheng had used, breathed in the scent of Lee Ziheng that remained on the pillow, and felt a sense of satisfaction in her heart. The time came to 2 o'clock in the morning. Anya was so sleepy that she could hardly open her eyes, but Dong Qianqian, a night owl, was full of energy. She kept asking about what happened between Anya and Lee Ziheng, but Anya just gave vague answers. Dong Qianqian was very dissatisfied and wanted to continue questioning, but Anya had fallen asleep. Dong Qianqian tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep, so she quietly picked up Anya's phone and unlocked it with Anya's fingerprint. After opening the Fission software, Dong Qianqian directly sent a message to Lee Ziheng. "Good brother, I can't sleep. Can I go to your room to chat?" After the message was sent, there was no response from the other side. Dong Qianqian frowned, turned on the bedside lamp, lifted the quilt on Anya, and took a picture of Anya's beautiful legs that were longer than her life. Take a photo, hit send, and you're done. After a while, a reply was received in the Fission chat window. Lee Ziheng's reply was 6 points. Dong Qianqian narrowed her eyes and smiled. She posed again, took a photo of her legs, and clicked send. "Brother, which legs are prettier, mine or Qianqian's?" Chapter 53. Brother, do you like cat maids or bunny girls? After sending the message, Dong Qianqian waited for several minutes, but there was no reply from Lee Ziheng. Dong Qianqian frowned again and murmured, "Why didn't he reply? Could he be masturbating while looking at our photos?" Thinking of this, she quickly sent another message. "Brother, do you like cat maids or bunny girls? Next time I'll change it to a maid outfit for you, okay?" As soon as the message was sent out, Lee Ziheng in the next room felt overwhelmed. He didn't know what happened to Anya today and why she sent such a message so late at night. Thinking of the 2 photos of legs that Anya had just sent him, Lee Ziheng quickly put down his phone. He was worried that if he continued to look at them, Anya would send him some other photos. That night, Lee Ziheng had a dream. The dream was full of white, beautiful legs. At the end of the dream, Anya was wearing a cat maid's clothes with a red face and timidly reached out to scratch her. Dreams are beautiful, but the more beautiful the dream is, the shorter it is. Lee Ziheng, who was having a sweet dream, woke up, was woken by the doorbell. When I looked at the time, it was already 9 o'clock in the morning. Lee Ziheng didn't expect that he would sleep so deeply. In the past, he would wake up naturally around 7 o'clock at most. Maybe you slept too late last night? Lee Ziheng thought so. I stood up, opened the door, and saw Anya and Dong Qianqian, who were already dressed neatly. When he saw Anya, Li Ziheng couldn't help but think of the dream he had last night. After the three of them had breakfast, Dong Qianqian drove Anya and Li Ziheng to the high-end Western restaurant where they had dinner yesterday. Regarding the contract signing, I will have someone contact Jasmine later. As for the development zone project, I will give you a reply tomorrow at the latest. Bye. After the two got out of the car, Dong Qianqian waved to them, then stepped on the accelerator and left. Anya drove and took Li Ziheng directly to the company. Anya took the exclusive elevator. Li Ziheng took the public elevator, and as soon as he stepped out of the elevator, he saw Su Chuang holding a cardboard box. He shrugged his head, looking a little depressed. When he saw Li Ziheng, Su Chuang raised his head, opened his mouth, and seemed to be hesitant to speak. Li Ziheng frowned slightly and asked curiously, "What's going on?" "Brother Hung, team leader Zhou said that I had a bad attitude during my internship and didn't obey orders from my superiors, so he asked me to quit." Su Chuang gritted his teeth, looking aggrieved. "Come to my office and talk." Li Ziheng frowned even deeper. He patted Su Chuang on the shoulder and then walked towards his office. Su Chuang followed behind, but as soon as he entered the office area of the marketing department, he was stopped by someone. "Su Chuang, you've been persuaded to leave. Why are you coming back? Don't you know that outsiders are not allowed to enter here?" The person who spoke was an employee who had a very good relationship with Zhou Shuai, the head of the marketing department. Su Chuang's face flushed, and he wanted to refute, but subconsciously looked at Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng said coldly, "You are very nosy." The employee was not afraid at all and explained with a smile, "Deputy manager, you just came to our department and may not understand our department's regulations. Our department does not allow outsiders to enter. This Su Chuang has been persuaded to resign and is no longer an employee of the company, so..." Without waiting for him to finish, Li Ziheng said directly, "I asked him to come. Do you have any objection?" While speaking, Li Ziheng glanced at the name tag on his chest. Marketing Department, Chun Chong. Chun Chong still had a smile on her face, but her attitude was still tough. "Deputy manager, the marketing department has regulations. What you are doing is against the rules." Su Chuang didn't want to embarrass Li Ziheng, so he took a step back while holding the cardboard box and said, "Brother Hung, how about I go first? I'll call you later." "Need not." Li Ziheng's expression gradually turned cold. He looked at Chin Chong and said, "Chin Chong, right? From now on, you are fired. Pack up your things and get out immediately." Chin Chong's face changed drastically, and she angrily asked, "Deputy manager, what right do you have to fire me?" Li Ziheng sneered. "Why? Just because I'm a deputy manager and you're just an ordinary marketing employee. Is that enough reason? You are abusing your power. If you have any objections, you can go to the Labor Bureau and sue me. Now you can get out." After Li Ziheng finished speaking, he ignored him and took Su Chuang directly back to his office. After asking about Su Chuang's situation, Li Ziheng suddenly became angry. But in order to understand the specific situation, he still found several other interns. After some understanding, Li Ziheng let them go. We learned from those interns that Su Chuang was the most hardworking and dedicated among their group of interns. But just 20 minutes ago, Chin Chong found Su Chuang and threw all the work in the hands of other interns to him and asked him to finish it before noon. This was obviously meant to make things difficult for Su Chuang. Su Chuang was so angry that he argued with Chin Chong. As a result, Chin Chong reported Su Chuang to Zhou Shuai for his bad attitude during the internship. Zhou Shuai did not bother to understand the situation and directly persuaded Su Chuang to withdraw. This is how things happened. But Li Ziheng was very clear that Zhou Shuai and others were deliberately making things difficult for Su Chuang, and the purpose of doing so was self-evident. "Don't worry, as long as I'm in the company, no one can persuade you to quit. Put your things back first. I'll take care of this matter." Li Ziheng comforted Su Chuang, who was feeling a little depressed, and then let him return to his workstation. After thinking about it, Li Ziheng took out his cell phone and called Anya. He briefly recounted Su Chuang's situation. This was not a report, but a greeting to Anya. Since he was going to clean up these old-timers who were sticking together, he naturally had to say hello to Anya first so that she could be mentally prepared. After all, although he was the person in charge behind Yunhai, he still had to give Anya face. As soon as Li Ziheng hung up the phone, Zhou Shuai and Chun Chong came over. As soon as he arrived, he came to hold someone accountable. "Deputy Manager Li, Chun Chong is a member of our team. You fired him for no reason. Doesn't that seem against the rules?" Zhou Shuai had a strong attitude and looked a little unhappy. Looking at the situation, someone who didn't know would think he was the manager. Li Ziheng was too lazy to explain and asked, "Are you questioning my decision? Although you are the deputy manager, you cannot fire people without reason. If you do this, it will have a very bad impact on the company. If other employees in the marketing department know about this, what do you think they will think?" Zhou Shuai spoke righteously. Li Ziheng sneered. "Zhou Shuai, you are just a team leader. Who gave you the right to speak nonsense in front of me? Also, have you completed the work I gave you yesterday?" When Zhou Shuai heard Li Ziheng mention what happened yesterday, his face suddenly turned ugly. He angrily said, "The workload you gave me is obviously too much. I can't finish it even if I stay up all night. You are deliberately making things difficult for me." Li Ziheng snorted coldly. "You also know that the workload is too heavy? Then why didn't you consider this when you left all the work of sorting out the materials to Su Chuang alone yesterday?" Zhou Shuai's face changed slightly. He didn't expect Li Ziheng to use his words to block him. "I told you that if you can't finish it, you don't have to come today. Why did you ignore my words?" Li Ziheng slammed the table with a bang, which scared Zhou Shuai and Qin Chong. "Deputy manager, I advise you not to go too far. After all, I have worked in Yunhai for 3 years. Even if I have no credit, I have worked hard. If you do this, it will only chill the hearts of us old employees." Zhou Shuai gritted his teeth and tried to threaten Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng glanced at him calmly and said in a cold voice, "You can only represent yourself, not others. Now pack up your things and go to the finance department to settle your salary." Zhou Shuai angrily scolded, "Li Ziheng, don't go too far. The marketing department is not yours alone. Don't forget that you are only a deputy manager. Roll!" Li Ziheng didn't argue with him and directly kicked him out of the office. Zhou Shuai did not go to the finance department, but took Qin Chong to complain to Manager Liu in the marketing department. Manager Liu immediately became angry after the two people exaggerated their complaints. She took Zhou Shuai and Qin Chong to Li Ziheng's office. Many people saw this scene when passing by the marketing department's office area. Manager Liu doesn't look very well. It looks like the deputy manager is going to be in big trouble. He's just a person who got in through the back door. He thinks he has the final say in the marketing department. I think the deputy manager is pretty good, not too arrogant. What do you know? This is a workplace competition. Deputy manager Li took the position of deputy manager from team leader Zhou. Many marketing department employees were whispering and discussing. Everyone is waiting to see the result, wanting to see who will win in the contest between Zhou Shuai and Li Ziheng. At the same time, in Li Ziheng's office, Manager Liu had a stern face and started questioning Li Ziheng as soon as he came in. "Deputy Manager Li, why did you fire team leader Zhou Shuai and team employee Qin Chong for no reason?" Chapter 54, Brother. Do you care about my opinion? Li Ziheng was looking at the information of the marketing staff in front of the computer. He looked up at Manager Liu and said, as a team leader, he took the lead in forming a group and making things difficult for the interns. Shouldn't such a despicable person be fired? Manager Liu said expressionlessly. "Do you have any evidence for what Deputy Manager Li said?" Li Ziheng replied as he read the information. "I saw it with my own eyes. What other evidence do I need? Or does Manager Liu think I'm lying and deliberately targeting them? I will investigate this matter thoroughly and decide whether to fire them or not. Let's put it aside for now," Manager Liu said, then turned to Zhou Shuai and Qin Chong and said, "Okay, you two go back to work first." "Okay, Manager Liu?" Zhou Shuai and Qin Chong nodded, with smiles on their faces particularly obvious. Zhou Shuai even deliberately gave Li Ziheng a smug look. Li Ziheng frowned slightly and said in a cold voice, "Manager Liu, are you sure you want to favor them so much?" Li Ziheng, "You are only the deputy manager. Please be aware of your status." Manager Liu's face suddenly looked a little unhappy. According to the division of positions, she is Li Ziheng's immediate superior. But Li Ziheng actually spoke to her like this in front of his subordinates, which was obviously not giving her face. Li Ziheng didn't want to make a big deal out of the matter. After all, he had read Manager Liu's information and found that he was indeed a capable manager. He sighed softly and advised kindly, "Manager Liu, I have only been in the marketing department for a few days, so I don't know much about the situation in the marketing department, but I think the way you handled this matter today was not very good." Li Ziheng looked at Manager Liu calmly. Manager Liu's face darkened and he said unhappily, "Li Ziheng, I am the general manager of the marketing department. If you have any opinions about my handling of the matter, You can go to general manager and complain to me. After saying that, Manager Lu left the office angrily. Zhou Shuai and Chen Chong looked at Li Ziheng with gloating expressions on their faces. A deputy manager who got in through connections actually challenged Manager Lu without knowing the consequences. This behavior is extremely stupid. Now, Manager Lu must have something against Li Ziheng. Once Li Ziheng's work is not handled well, Manager Lu will definitely go to General Manager and ask General Manager and to revoke Li Ziheng's position as Deputy Manager of the department. The two did not stay and followed Manager Lu out of Li Ziheng's office. After this incident, Zhou Shuai and others restrained themselves a lot and no longer made things difficult for the intern Su Chuang. However, the workload assigned to Su Chuang is obviously greater than that of other interns. At noon, Anya sent another message to Li Ziheng asking him to go to the president's office for lunch. The two ate and chatted, and Li Ziheng asked Anya what she thought of Manager Lu. He's very capable, but not tactful enough when it comes to dealing with people. This was Anya's answer. Li Ziheng nodded slightly and said no more. Seeing Li Ziheng's silence, Anya was a little worried, so she asked tentatively, "Brother, you won't fire Manager Lu just because she treats you badly, right?" "Not really." Li Ziheng smiled, put down his bowl and chopsticks, took a napkin, and wiped the oil stains from the corners of his mouth. Anya nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. "That's fine. Okay, I'm going to get busy now." Li Ziheng stood up, packed up the takeaway boxes on the coffee table, and left. When he returned to the office, Manager Lu had someone send some documents over and asked Li Ziheng to handle them. Li Ziheng did not refuse. He spent an entire afternoon processing all the documents and personally placed them on Manager Lu's desk before leaving get off work. Manager Lu flipped through the file and looked at it, then looked up at Li Ziheng and said, "Deputy Manager Li, Zhou Shuai is a veteran employee of the company, and he is also a team leader. He has a certain influence in the marketing department. I hope you can get along well with him." "I'm sorry, Manager Lu. I have a different opinion from you. I think the talent the company needs must not only be capable, but also have a broad mind, but the most important thing is character." Li Ziheng knew that Manager Lu wanted to ease the relationship with him, but his attitude remained firm. Upon hearing this, Manager Lu pinched his brows and waved his hand, saying, "As your boss, I'm just kindly reminding you, but whether you listen or not is up to you." "Okay, get out now." "Okay, Manager Lu." Li Ziheng nodded slightly, turned around, and left the office. It was already time to get off work, so Li Ziheng packed up his things and prepared to leave. But as soon as he walked out of the office, Li Ziheng heard Zhou Shuai's extremely arrogant voice. "You're just an intern. Do you think that you can ignore me, the team leader, just because you have the support of the deputy manager? I'm telling you, as long as I'm still in Yunhai and in the marketing department, you'll never be able to get a permanent job." Looking in the direction of the sound. At this moment, Zhou Shuai was standing next to Su Chuang's workstation, looking down at Su Chuang, whose face was flushed red. Su Chuang gritted his teeth and said angrily, "The company is not owned by your family. Whether I can become a regular employee depends on my work ability and attitude. You have no say." Ha ha ha. Upon hearing this, Zhou Shuai burst into laughter. "Have you become stupid from studying so much? How can you become a regular employee if I don't sign your application? You idiot, you don't even understand the rules of the workplace, and you still want to get by in the workplace." He mocked Su Chuang without any hesitation. Su Chuang's face turned red with anger at his words, but he couldn't refute it. At this time, Zhou Shuai's subordinates spotted Li Ziheng, who just walked out of the office, so they quickly pushed him. Zhou Shuai turned to look at Li Ziheng, smiled jokingly, and walked towards the elevator with his subordinates. Li Ziheng did not stop him, but walked towards Su Chuang. Patting Su Chuang's shoulder gently, Li Ziheng comforted him. "Don't take his words to heart. Just work hard. Whether you can get a permanent job is not up to him alone." Su Chuang's expression softened when he heard this. He nodded heavily and said, "Okay, Brother Hung, I'll try my best." "Well, I believe you." Li Ziheng smiled and walked towards the elevator. At this time, the elevator door was about to close. Seeing Li Ziheng walking towards this side, Zhou Shuai quickly pressed the door closing button. Childish. Li Ziheng frowned, speechless at his behavior. To him, Zhou Shuai was just a small figure, and he never took him seriously. After leaving the company, Li Ziheng walked towards the rental house. At this time, a burst of hurried footsteps came from behind him. "Brother, why are you walking so fast? Wait for me." Anya's voice rang out. After a while, Anya was seen jogging towards them, panting. She was wearing high heels, carrying a shoulder bag, and had a resentful expression on her face. What's the matter? Li Zihang had a puzzled expression on his face. It's nothing. I just feel too lazy to cook and want to go to your place for a meal. Why? You're not welcome. Anya pursed her lips and continued. Brother promised me before that I'm always welcome to have a meal at your place. Do you want to go back on your word now? Li Zihang smiled and said, Of course not, but next time, please inform me in advance. I'm afraid Jasmine hasn't prepared your meal. Anya smiled and said, It's okay. I'm on a diet and I don't eat much. Lose weight? You're not fat, so you don't need to lose weight, right? Li Zihang looked Anya up and down with some suspicion. Anya's figure is just right, fat where it should be fat, thin where it should be thin. It is a perfect figure. Really? Brother, do you think I have a good figure? Anya's eyes lit up. She turned around in front of Li Zihang, and then stared at Li Zihang with anticipation. Li Zihang nodded slightly and said, Well, you have a good figure. You don't need to lose weight. Anya's pretty face flushed, and she asked nervously, Does brother like my figure? However, before Li Zihang could answer, a red Aston Martin stopped by the roadside. The car door opened, and a middle-aged man in his 30s or 40s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and an expensive handmade casual suit, walked out of the driver's seat. He had a faint smile on his face and a valuable watch on his wrist. As soon as the middle-aged man got off the car, his eyes stayed on Anya. Li Zihang, who was standing next to Anya, was directly ignored by him. He waved at Anya and strode over. Xiaoya, are you free tonight? I want to invite you to a friend's party. Sorry, I already have a date tonight. Anya glanced at Li Zihang, then smiled politely at the middle-aged man and shook her head. It was only at this moment that the middle-aged man looked at Li Zihang, who was standing next to Anya for the first time. But it was just a quick glance. Is this the gentleman? He was asking Anya. Anya nodded slightly. Seeing this, the middle-aged man smiled, turned to face Li Zihang, and said, Hello, my name is Ji Baran. Nice to meet you. Li Zihang. Li Zihang nodded and said his name. Ji Baran paused, wondering in his mind whether there was a person named Li Zihang in the Yunhai business community. But after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't remember a person named Li Zihang. So he asked with a smile, May I ask where Mr. Li works? Yunhai, deputy manager of the marketing department. Yunhai? Deputy manager of the department? So, you are a subordinate of Xiaoya Company? Hearing this, a hint of contempt flashed across Ji Baran's eyes. I thought this love rival had some background, but I didn't expect him to be just a high-level worker. With this status, you are not even qualified to compete with him. You could say that. Li Zihang smilat indiferently. Hehe, since Xiaoya has made an appointment with you first, I won't bother you. Ji Baran was too disdainful to talk to Li Zihang. He turned to look at Anya and said, Xiaoya, let's make an appointment another day. Anya nodded slightly in response. Ji Baran turned around, got into the car, and left. After he left, Anya angrily hugged Li Zihang's arm and said dissatisfiedly, Brother, that Ji Baran obviously looks down on you. Why are you not angry at all? Whether he thinks highly of me or not is his business. What does it have to do with me? Li Zihang smiled indifferently and said, Just live your life well. Other people's opinions are not important. If you care too much about what others think of you, you will live a very tiring life. That makes sense. Anya's eyes flickered and she nodded slightly. She was a little angry at first, but after hearing Li Zihang's sermon, she suddenly calmed down. As if she had thought of something, Anya shook Li Zihang's arm and asked coquettishly, Brother, do you care about my opinion? You guess. Li Zihang didn't want to answer this question. He smiled and rubbed Anya's head, then walked towards the rental house. Anya followed him, still hugging his arm, shaking and acting coquettishly, but Li Zihang just didn't answer her questions directly, which made her very annoyed, but she couldn't do anything about Li Zihang. Bye. At this time, Anya received a message on her mobile phone. She took out her cell phone and took a look at it. Her expression changed slightly, and she slowed down her pace, feeling guilty. On the phone screen, there was a Feishan chat box. A Feishan friend sent her a WPS file. The title on the document was, Information about Female Anchor Jasmine. After receiving the file, Anya opened it directly. After reading part of the information, the expression on Anya's face suddenly became a little ugly. This little vixen is really coming for my brother. Chapter 55 Brother, love me. On the way back to the rental house, Anya's face looked very ugly for a while. She looked at Li Zihang several times, seeming to want to say something, but stopping herself. But when she thought about the information about Jasmine's identity, she felt a little apprehensive. Just like that, with a conflicted feeling in her heart, she and Li Ziheng returned to the rental house. Li Ziheng opened the door with his key, and instantly, the aroma of food wafted over from the restaurant. Just smelling the aroma of the food makes one's appetite wet. Brother, are you back? Hey, Sister Anya, you're here again? Hearing the door open, Jasmine came out of the kitchen. She had an apron tied around her waist and a spatula in her hand, and she seemed to be cooking. Li Ziheng smiled and said, "Your sister Anya may come over often to eat, so when you cook in the future, make one more portion." Anya rarely argued. She stared at Jasmine with complicated eyes, feeling a pang of sadness in her heart. As the executive president of Yunhai, her status and position in Yunqing is not low, but when facing Jasmine, her background is completely inadequate. Thinking of this, Anya inexplicably felt inferior and powerless. Jasmine nodded and smiled sweetly. "Brother, Sister Anya, please wait a moment. Dinner will be ready soon." A few minutes later, for dishes and a soup were already on the table. The three of them were the same as yesterday, but the atmosphere was a little different. "Xiaoya, are you worried?" Noticing Anya's silence, Li Ziheng looked at her suspiciously. Jasmine heard this and also raised her eyes to look at Anya. "No, I was just thinking about the company." Anya forced a smile and made up an excuse to evade the question. Li Ziheng didn't think much about it. After dinner, Li Ziheng sent Anya to the gate of the community just like he did last night. "Elder brother." Before they parted, Anya opened her mouth and wanted to say something to Li Ziheng, but when the words came to her lips, she swallowed them back. "What's wrong?" Li Ziheng had a faint smile on his face. "Phoenix." Anya smiled bitterly, shook her head, and turned away. "This little girl." Li Ziheng touched his nose, feeling puzzled by Anya's behavior. After Anya left, she didn't go home, but went directly to the company. She sat in the boss chair in the president's office, logged into the Feitian software on her computer, and clicked on Jasmine's profile again. She wanted to confirm it again, but as she looked at it, her brows couldn't help but frown. Could it be a mistake? Anya still couldn't believe it, so she sent a message to that Feitian friend. However, after the message was sent, it fell into oblivion. Helpless, she had to call that person. The call was connected after a while. Just as Anya was about to ask the other party, a strange voice came from the receiver of the phone. "Missin, you can't just investigate some people casually. For Master Ziheng's sake, we won't pursue the matter this time. If it happens again, you will bear the consequences yourself. This is a threat." Anya heard murderous intent in the other person's voice. Beep, beep, beep. The call was hung up. Anya's heart felt as if it had fallen into an icy cave, extremely cold. At this moment, she felt like she had survived a disaster. If Anya had suspected that the information was wrong before, now she had no doubt at all. After all, being able to do this is enough to prove that the other party's identity and background are as terrifying as the information says. However, she really couldn't understand why a rich girl of that status would travel all the way to Long Country for Li Ziheng and play the role of a poor girl, just to get close to Li Ziheng. But with her status, she could easily keep Li Ziheng by her side with just one sentence. Anya was very confused and couldn't figure out what the other party's purpose was. Compared to Anya's anxiety, Li Ziheng was very comfortable. As soon as he returned to the rental house, he saw that Jasmine had changed her clothes at some point. The upper body is a short white slim t-shirt with a big-eyed cute girl from the second dimension printed on the chest, and the lower body is a pair of hip-hugging hot pants. She tied her long hair into a ponytail, and at first glance, she looked like a young sporty girl. Li Ziheng glanced at Jasmine from head to toe and asked curiously, "Are you going out?" "Yeah, I ate too much tonight, so I want to go out for a run to help me digest the food." "Brother, do you want to come with me?" Jasmine smiled gently and nodded slightly. Li Ziheng thought about it and agreed. Before the divorce, after Jiang Wan went to work at the company, Li Ziheng would go running and exercise when he had nothing to do, trying to keep in shape as much as possible. Now that I'm divorced and working in Yunhai, I have stopped running and fitness. As a sedentary person, if he cannot maintain a certain amount of exercise and burn fat, he will develop a beer belly. Li Ziheng does not want to become a greasy man before he is 30 years old. 5 minutes later, Li Ziheng and Jasmine appeared in the park near the community. The two of them jogged along the greenway by the lake in the park, and this run took them an hour and a half. It was not until both of them were sweating that they returned to the rental house feeling satisfied. After returning, Li Ziheng politely asked Jasmine to take a shower first while he waited in the living room. Jasmine took 10 minutes to shower. After washing, She returned to her room to prepare for the live broadcast work in the evening. When Li Ziheng finished a shower and walked out of the bathroom, Jasmine had already started the live broadcast. The time is now 8 o'clock in the evening, and Li Ziheng's bedtime is 10 o'clock in the evening. Out of boredom, he picked up his phone and entered Jasmine's live broadcast room. Originally, he was thinking about giving a tip to Jasmine, but as soon as he entered the live broadcast room, Li Ziheng discovered that there were thousands of people in the room, and more than 20 of them were wealthy people. These wealthy people would send Jasmine expensive virtual gifts from time to time. In just half an hour, Jasmine received gifts worth more than 200,000 yuan, which made Li Ziheng sigh. Is this how the live streaming industry makes money? Li Ziheng seldom watches live broadcasts and doesn't know much about the live broadcast industry. But I have also read some posts online that many female anchors could not resist the money-spending offensive of the rich and met with the top anchor offline and finally became the personal playthings of the top anchor. Thinking of this, Li Ziheng decided to have a good chat with Jasmine after the live broadcast so that she would not go astray and do something that she would regret for the rest of her life. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Jasmine turned off the live broadcast. Just as Li Ziheng was hesitating whether to go find Jasmine now or wait until tomorrow morning to talk after breakfast, the door was suddenly pushed open. Before Li Ziheng turned off the lights, he saw Jasmine push open the door and walk in. She closed the door and went straight to the bed. "What's up?" Li Ziheng spoke first. Jasmine's pretty face flushed. She didn't say anything, but under Li Ziheng's gaze, she crawled into Li Ziheng's bed with a blushing face. Li Ziheng was stunned for a moment. He wanted to refuse verbally, but his body honestly moved to the side to make room for Jasmine. Jasmine was very shy. She turned her back to Li Ziheng and whispered, "Brother, good night." "Jasmine, I want to talk to you." Hearing this, Jasmine turned around and stared straight into Li Ziheng's eyes with her big watery eyes. There seemed to be a small flame burning in her eyes, and there was a hint of anticipation on her delicate little face. "Cough." Looking at the girl's burning eyes, Li Ziheng coughed lightly and said seriously, "Jasmine, although being a host can make money, you must stick to your original intention and don't be tempted by money and do things that you will regret. God rewards hard work, and hard work will definitely be rewarded. Only when you earn money diligently can you feel at ease when you spend it. Do you understand what I mean?" Li Ziheng said it very tactfully, but he believed that Jasmine was a smart girl and should be able to understand the deeper meaning of his words. Jasmine had a faint smile on her lips, and she nodded solemnly. "Brother, don't worry. Jasmine only belongs to you and will never get close to other men." "That's not what I meant. What I meant was..." Li Ziheng's face turned red. He thought Jasmine could understand his kind reminder. Unexpectedly, Jasmine had the wrong idea. He wanted to explain, but Jasmine closed her eyes and went straight into his arms. "Brother, love me." Jasmine's voice trembled as she spoke, and she seemed a little nervous. Li Ziheng originally wanted to explain, but a cold little hand suddenly hugged his waist without warning. What I wanted to say was held back. The two of them were very close, so close that Li Ziheng could clearly feel the softness and amazing elasticity coming from his chest. Chapter 56. Brother, you are my light. "Jasmine, that's not what I meant." Li Ziheng's Adam's apple rolled. He swallowed and tried hard to suppress the restless desire in his heart. Jasmine said timidly, "Brother, it's not good for your health to keep enduring it." "Jasmine, you are still young and have a bright future. Don't do anything stupid." Li Ziheng took a deep breath and tried to enlighten Jasmine. Although, he spent 500,000 to buy Jasmine for a year. But after learning about Jasmine's tragic experience, he completely gave up the dirty thoughts. "The main reason why I kept Jasmine by my side was to help her as much as possible." But obviously Jasmine misunderstood his meaning, so she offered herself on her own initiative. "Brother is my light." Jasmine raised her head and stared into Li Ziheng's eyes with burning eyes. The moment their eyes met, Li Ziheng's heart stopped for a moment. It was because he saw sincere love and deep attachment in Jasmine's eyes. But the more he looked at her like this, the more Li Ziheng couldn't do anything worse than an animal. He smiled bitterly, and the restlessness in his heart gradually subsided. "Jasmine, don't take the 500,000 to heart. Just think of it as my investment in you. When you make money in the future, you can repay me." "Brother, do you dislike me?" Upon hearing this, Jasmine's eyes trembled slightly, and the scorching light in her eyes dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Li Ziheng quickly comforted her and explained, "Don't talk nonsense. You are very beautiful and strong. How could I dislike you? Then why can my brother remain indifferent to me under such circumstances? Jasmine blinked, her watery eyes filled with confusion and inferiority. Is it because Jasmine's skin is not as white as Sister Anya's? Or is it because Jasmine's figure is not good? Jasmine bit the corner of her lip lightly, and a mist gradually appeared in her eyes. That aggrieved expression actually made Li Zihang's heart tremble violently. Is this the expression that is both pure and lustful? Li Zihang's breathing became a little heavy, and he really wanted to kiss her. But as soon as this thought came into mind, it was immediately wiped out by reason. No, don't let your imagination run wild. You're very beautiful and have a great figure. Really? Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you? Elder brother. Jasmine said pitifully. I feel very inferior in front of my brother, so, brother, can you praise me and give me some courage? Inferiority complex? Why do you feel inferior? You are obviously very good. Not only are you good-looking, you have a good figure, and most importantly, you can cook. Li Zihang was a little confused. He didn't understand why Jasmine, who was obviously very outstanding, felt inferior in front of him. But he couldn't refuse Jasmine's request, so he told her all the good qualities he saw in her. Girls nowadays are very delicate. It's very rare to be able to cook and cook so deliciously. Just based on this point, you have already crushed more than 90% of your peers. Really, brother? Jasmine was somewhat happy. She blinked her big, watery eyes and stared at Li Zihang with anticipation. Of course it's true. Brother won't lie to you. Li Zihang smiled and reached out to rub Jasmine's head, and the latter looked very happy. But then, Jasmine asked another question that made Li Zihang extremely confused. Brother, do you like girls with small breasts? Why do you say that? I read online that boys like women with big breasts. I think mine should be big, but my brother doesn't seem to be interested at all. Jasmine said this and suddenly lowered her head. But Li Zihang found that Jasmine's ears were gradually turning red. She is shy. Ahem. Li Zihang touched his nose awkwardly and explained patiently. I like it too, but I can't do anything out of line. It's disrespectful to you, Jasmine whispered, but I don't mind. That won't work either. You're not mature enough right now. Wait a few years and you'll understand. Li Zihang felt that the topic was getting off track, so he pretended to yawn and said, Okay, let's stop talking. I'm sleepy. Let's go to sleep. After saying that, he closed his eyes. I originally wanted to pretend to sleep, but as I was pretending, I actually fell asleep. Listening to Li Zihang's even breathing, Jasmine looked up, and after making sure that Li Zihang was asleep, she snuggled into Li Zihang's arms again. She pressed her cheek against Li Zihang's chest, listening to his pounding heartbeat, and felt a sense of peace in her heart. The unprecedented sense of security made her completely relax. Brother, it's so nice to be with you, she murmured softly, and soon fell asleep. The next day, Li Zihang woke up. He wanted to get up, but found that his chest seemed to be pressed by something soft and warm. Looking down, Li Zihang was stunned for a moment. I saw Jasmine with her arms around his waist, lying on his chest. And that soft touch is the girl's proud asset. Her eyes were closed, her breathing was soft, and she was as quiet as a sleeping kitten. For a moment, Li Zihang couldn't bear to wake her up. After an unknown amount of time, Jasmine's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and she slowly opened her eyes. Elder brother. After a brief moment of confusion, Jasmine immediately came to her senses. She propped her hands on the bed on both sides of Li Zihang's head and said apologetically, I'm sorry, brother. I overslept. It's okay, I overslept. The two looked at each other. Li Zihang smiled and was about to stand up, but as soon as he lowered his head, he saw a deep, snow-white ravine. Early morning is the time when men's yang energy is at its strongest. Li Zihang couldn't help but have some reaction when he suddenly saw this scene. He touched his nose awkwardly and said with an unnatural smile, Jasmine, you get off me first. I want to get up. Jasmine nodded and suddenly sat up straight. But she was originally sitting on Li Zihang, and when she suddenly sat up, she was not sitting on the bed, but on Li Zihang. Li Zihang took a deep breath and almost cried out in discomfort. Brother, you? Jasmine also noticed something unusual. Her cheeks turned red, and she stared at Li Zihang shyly. Li Zihang sat up suddenly. He took Jasmine off his body, then quickly got up and ran into the bathroom. After a while, the sound of running water could be heard in the bathroom. Elder brother. The blush on Jasmine's face had not yet faded. She put her left hand on her chest, and there was a gleam in her eyes. 15 minutes later, Jasmine had prepared breakfast. 2 bowls of plain noodles, 3 fried eggs, and 2 cups of hot milk with sugar. Li Ziheng sat at the dining table with an awkward expression. For a moment, he didn't know how to face Jasmine. Jasmine picked up a fried egg and put it into Li Ziheng's bowl. Both of them tacitly did not mention what had just happened. After breakfast, Li Ziheng did not wait for Jasmine, but hurried out to work. Along the way, Li Ziheng kept replaying the embarrassing experience before getting up in the morning in his mind. I was trying to reason with her last night, but she did something so obscene this morning. Oh, I'm afraid she has already thought that I'm a bad person who says one thing and means another, right? Li Ziheng smilat bitterly. At this moment, an Aston Martin suddenly stopped on the side of the road beside him. Li Ziheng was still thinking about how to get along with Jasmine in the future when he heard someone calling his name. Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng turned his head and saw Ji Baran sitting in the car. Mr. Ji wants to see me for something? Ji Baran had a blank expression on his face, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Nothing else? I just want to remind you to be careful of your identity. Anya is not someone you can get involved with. Chapter 57, Brother. How about I pledge my love to you? Mr. G, are you reminding me or threatening me? Seeing that the other party had ill intentions, Li Ziheng's expression gradually turned cold. Ji Baran smiled contemptuously. If you know what's good for you, you can understand it as a reminder. If you don't give up and want to eat swan meat, you can also regard it as a threat from me. Is that so? Hearing this, Li Ziheng smiled. Ji Baran frowned slightly. What are you laughing at? Li Ziheng shrugged and said with a smile. Boss Ji, how unconfident are you to come here and threaten me, the deputy manager of the marketing department? Ji Baran's face darkened, but he was powerless to refute it. There's nothing wrong with liking someone, but if you like someone in such a despicable way, then I can only say that people like you don't deserve to be loved. Li Ziheng sighed lightly, ignored Ji Baran's gloomy face, turned around, and walked straight towards the company. At 11 o'clock in the morning, Li Ziheng was processing the work at hand. At this moment, Anya suddenly came over. Put aside the work you were doing and come with me. Anya's arrival surprised her colleagues in the marketing department. After all, President Inda almost never shows up in the marketing department. Even if there is something going on, he will just ask his secretary to go there. This is the first time this year that I have come here in person like today. What? Li Ziheng looked puzzled. Anya rolled her eyes at Li Ziheng and said, What else can I do? Of course, it's about the project in the economic development zone. Could it be that you think I'm looking for you for personal matters? No, I just asked out of curiosity. Li Ziheng smiled, locked the computer screen, stood up, and followed Anya out of the office. The two of them walked side by side towards the elevator. This scene made the colleagues in the marketing department look surprised. What's going on? Deputy Manager Li seems to have a special relationship with President In. He's just a relative, maybe a distant cousin. Do you think it's possible that Deputy Manager Li is Mr. An's boyfriend? Impossible. Mr. An has never been in a relationship in these years. Isn't it said that Mr. An likes women? That may not be the case. I haven't dated anyone. Maybe it's because I haven't met the right one yet. I think Deputy Manager Li is quite handsome, and he's very gentle and polite in his conversation. He's definitely a warm-hearted man. Have you seen the photo in the group a while ago? It was the photo taken secretly by the front desk when Mr. An brought Deputy Manager Li to the company for the first time. Mr. An was smiling happily in the photo. Now that you mention it, I'm beginning to doubt the relationship between Mr. An and Deputy Manager Li. The marketing department was in a commotion, with many people gossiping privately about the relationship between Li Ziheng and Anya. When Zhou Shuai heard these discussions, his expression changed again and again. That's impossible. If Li Ziheng is Mr. An's boyfriend, then why didn't Mr. An make trouble for Mr. Liu when he was so harsh on him yesterday? Zhou Shuai thought so in his heart. Thinking of this, he became more convinced that the relationship between Li Ziheng and General An was not as close as his colleagues had discussed. If they were just distant cousins, that would make sense. After all, any smart person should understand that the interests of the company are far more important than a distant cousin. Li Ziheng followed Anya all the way to the underground parking lot. Anya just opened the door of the cab and suddenly thought for a moment and asked, Master, do you have a driver's license? Li Ziheng also opened the car door and was about to get in. Then you drive. Hearing this, Anya decisively grabbed Li Ziheng's co-pilot seat. Li Ziheng was a little confused. At this time, Anya had already closed the passenger door, lowered the window, and said with a smile, "You have a driver's license, but you let a girl like me drive. Do you have the nerve to do that?" Li Ziheng laughed and retorted, "You keep calling me young master, but you let me be your driver. Do you have the nerve to do that?" "What? I clearly called you brother. Since you are the brother, do you have the nerve to let your sister be your driver?" Anya started to act like a rogue. Seeing that Li Ziheng was still trying to refute her, she immediately said in a clip, "Brother, good brother, I've been busy all morning. Do you really have the heart to let me drive?" "Good brother." Faced with Anya's sudden coquettishness, Li Ziheng couldn't help but shudder. He quickly raised his hands in surrender. Okay, okay. Don't say any more, I'll be your driver, okay?" Chuckle, chuckle. Anya immediately smiled like a flower. She smiled and said coquettishly, "Brother is still the best. He knows how to care for his sister. Don't talk like that. I can't stand it." Li Ziheng smiled bitterly, pulled the door of the driver's seat, and got in. After starting the car, Anya turned on the navigation system and entered the destination. Anya seemed to be in a good mood and kept chattering all the way. Li Ziheng was a little surprised, so he asked, "You are in such a good mood. Is it because the projects in the economic development zone are open for investment?" "Brother is so smart." Hearing this, Anya's smile widened. In the early years, she raised investment to establish Yunhai and step-by-step built Yunhai into the largest international trading company in Yunqing, and then into a group, becoming the leading enterprise in Yunqing. One can imagine the effort and hardship involved. But after becoming the industry leader, it has reached the upper limit of Yunhai international trade. If you want to continue to grow, you have to start transforming. To this end, Anya decided to establish a product processing factory belonging to Yunhai in Yunqing and create a commercial brand exclusively for Yunhai. The products include daily necessities, office supplies, clothing, electrical appliances, furniture, and so on. If the plan succeeds, Yunhai's future will be limitless. Yunhai was founded by Anya. To her, Yunhai is her own child. She certainly hopes that her child can go further, stand higher, and become stronger. You have done a good job in planning the future of Yunhai. This direction is correct. Li Ziheng expressed his approval. Anya was stunned and asked in surprise, "Brother knows my plans for Yunhai's future? I'm in the company every day, and I see all your decisions. After comprehensive analysis, isn't your future plan obvious?" Li Ziheng smiled and then said, "You are heading in the right direction, but it is not easy to achieve this goal. First of all, it depends on product quality, and secondly, user research in overseas markets, market research, etc. For now, Yunhai's biggest advantage is that it has its own transportation channels. Yunhai can solve the problem of product quality, but it cannot guarantee the overseas market unless it is endorsed by a well-known overseas company." At this point, Li Ziheng suddenly came to his senses. He turned to look at Anya and scolded her with a smile. "You little profiteer, do you want to borrow the resources of the headquarters to help you complete the transformation of Yunhai?" "Brother, you are so smart." Anya did not deny it, but blinked quickly at Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng raised his eyebrows. "How can you be sure that the headquarters will help you?" "I'm not sure whether the headquarters will help me, but I'm sure my brother will help me." A bright smile appeared on Anya's face. Li Ziheng complained, "You asked me to help you, and let me be your driver. You have a good plan?" Anya's pretty face turned red, and she stuck out her tongue a little embarrassedly. "Brother, don't say that. At worst, I can cook for you a seafood dinner tonight." Li Ziheng smiled and rolled his eyes. "Tisk, you're really willing to send me away with just a big meal?" Anya chuckled and teased. "Brother, if you feel you're at a disadvantage, at worst I can pledge my love to you. In this way, helping me is the same as helping yourself. Would you consider it?" Li Ziheng was speechless. "It's fine if you squeeze my value, but now you want to covet my body? Your abacus beads are about to fall on my face." Hearing this, Anya became furious. She reached out and twisted Li Ziheng's waist to vent her dissatisfaction. The two chatted and laughed as they came to an agency called Zhai's in the Economic Development Zone. Zhi's agency is run by Qian Qian's brother. Our task today is to discuss the venue leasing with his brother. When getting off the car, Anya told the purpose of her trip. Li Ziheng nodded slightly to show his understanding. The two entered the agency, and after learning that they were looking for Dong Zhai's, the front desk immediately took them to the meeting room. After a while, a young man in a blue suit with a slicked back hair and a gold chain around his neck walked in. After seeing Anya, the young man's eyes lit up, and he immediately walked over quickly. "Sister Ya, You came so quickly, my sister hasn't even arrived yet. It's okay. Our goal is to find you. It doesn't matter whether she comes or not. Anya responded with a smile. I've already heard what my sister said. Sister, yeah, don't worry, your business is my business. I guarantee you will be satisfied with the venue. Dong Zhai's chuckled, rubbed his hands, and said somewhat embarrassedly, but sister, yeah, personal relationships are personal relationships, and business is business. The demand for your site is not small, and the price, ahem. Anya smiled calmly and glanced at Li Ziheng. This is my assistant, Li Ziheng. You can discuss the details of the price with him. Hello, my name is Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng stood up and extended his hand towards Dong Zhai's. The latter looked at Li Ziheng suspiciously, but also shook hands with Li Ziheng enthusiastically. Anya no longer participated in the subsequent work and handed it over to Li Ziheng. Although it was a temporary decision without prior notice, Li Ziheng had already made sufficient preparations 2 days in advance. We have long had an in-depth understanding of the factory prices and land in the economic development zone. After the negotiation, Dong Zhai's face turned black. Because Li Ziheng actually found out the bottom price and didn't leave him any profit at all, Dong Zhai's wanted to flip the table. Assistant Li, you're a Sister Ya's person, so I won't beat around the bush with you. I am in charge of the economic development zone. You can only invest and build a factory if I agree. If I don't agree, you can't even rent a factory, let alone invest. Don't be angry, President Dong. We are here to discuss business. Since we are discussing business, it must be mutually beneficial. I just mentioned our Yunhai's requirements, and I haven't talked about each other's interests yet. What profit? According to what you just said, I can't even get the money as an agent, so where can the profit come from? Dong Zhai's couldn't help but swore. He didn't ask for too much out of consideration for his sister, but Li Ziheng was too ruthless and was unwilling to even give him the agency fee. Anya listened to the whole process and was also confused by Li Ziheng's negotiation skills. Businessmen are profit-driven. If they only care about pursuing their own interests without giving concessions to the other party, the final result can only be a breakdown in negotiations and a bad ending. She thought that Li Ziheng would not make such a low-level mistake, but on second thought, Li Ziheng had never run a company or discussed cooperation, so his lack of experience in this area was understandable. Just as she was about to take action herself, Li Ziheng made a gesture to her, signaling her not to interfere. Look at what you can do. Seeing this, Anya curled her lips and said nothing, waiting to see Li Ziheng make a fool of himself. _X0007_. Chapter 58. Men are most handsome when they are serious. Facing Dong Zhai's, who was obviously a little annoyed, Li Ziheng smiled and said, the economic development zone is in a good location and has been well developed. But if that's all, it's far from enough to create value. I have a plan. Mr. Dong might as well listen to it first. At present, Yunhai has reached a bottleneck in its development. If it wants to continue to grow, it must complete the transformation. Yunhai's transformation is to establish its own brand, and the products involved are very wide. If Yunhai's brand is established and its reputation is well known, and the production base is in the economic development zone, then the popularity of this area will also increase, and it will also attract more capital to invest and set up factories in the economic development zone. If you want to make money, you have to make long-term plans for the future. I suggest that Dong Zong invest in Yunhai. Of course, you don't need to pay, you just need to provide the venue. In return, after the Yunhai brand is well known, it will help the economic development zone to build momentum and publicity and increase its popularity. In this way, not only can the value of the area under your jurisdiction be maximized, but the surrounding housing prices will also rise accordingly. More importantly, it can also provide employment opportunities for nearby residents to seek jobs with good benefits. When that time comes, Dong Zone can set the entry standards, and companies without a certain reputation and brand will not be eligible to set up factories. In addition, Dong Zone can also invest in purchasing some factories or employee dormitories. When those big companies come to invest and set up factories, they can rent them out and earn rent, and your agency can earn a lot of agency fees. With all these benefits added up, Mr. Dong can make a lot of money. Li Ziheng told his plan. At this time, Dong Zhai's was already stunned. He swallowed, and his mind began to imagine how much money he could make if the plan succeeded. Anya, standing by, had an even more shocked expression on her face. This plan is perfect. You talk a lot, but can you guarantee that it will succeed? Although Dong Zhai's was very tempted, he also felt that it was all too illusory. If the plan fails, Yunhai will suffer the most. Dong Zong will just lose a little bit of agency and profit. There will be no actual loss, right? Li Ziheng smiled and said, but once the plan succeeds, President Dong, you will be able to accumulate a large amount of wealth in the shortest possible time and achieve financial freedom. For such a low-cost, low-risk investment, I really can't think of any reason why Dong Zong would reject it. Li Ziheng was very confident. He firmly believed that Dong Zhais would compromise and agree to invest. After talking for a long time, Li Ziheng felt a little dry in the mouth. At this moment, someone suddenly handed me a glass of water. Li Ziheng took it subconsciously. He thought it was Anya and was about to say thank you, but when he turned around, he found that the person was not Anya, but Dong Qianqian. Hey, when did you get here? When he saw Dong Qianqian, Li Ziheng was stunned for a moment. Dong Qianqian smiled faintly. I've been here for quite a while, but you were so engrossed in your conversation that you didn't notice me. Seeing the visitor, Dong Zhais asked his sister Dong Qianqian for her opinion with some uncertainty. Sister, did you hear everything just now? Do you think the plan he just mentioned is reliable? Is he trying to fool me? Hearing this, Dong Qianqian rolled her eyes at him and said with disdain, what's there to fool around with, a gangster like you? I didn't ask you to pay, and I didn't ask you to do anything. It's obvious that they're giving you money, but you still think they're unreliable. I've never seen anyone as stupid as you. Well, Dong Zhai's face turned red, and he was a little dissatisfied. Sister, I am your brother after all. How can you disparage me like this in front of outsiders? Dong Qianqian stepped forward and twisted her brother Dong Zhai's ear, scolding him. What's wrong with you, you pig-brained guy? This is such a good opportunity. Why don't you quickly accept it? Oh, sister, let go, let go. If you do this again, I will be angry with you. Dong Zhais suddenly let out a scream. Dong Qianqian laughed in anger. Oh my, you're still angry? Can you beat me? If I really do, I'll beat you so hard that even our dad won't recognize you. Do you believe it? Sister, I was wrong, okay? Let go quickly, it hurts. Dong Zhais gave in. This scene made Li Ziheng feel ashamed. Is this what is called blood suppression? Fortunately, I don't have a sister, otherwise it would be miserable. Anya came over at some point and whispered, are you scared? If you are, stay away from this woman. She has learned karate, and her beatings hurt. Although Anya's voice was very low, Dong Qianqian still heard it. She turned her head and glared at Anya. Little bitch, stop spreading rumors. I am a gentle and kind girl, and I never hit my man. Then, she smiled charmingly at Li Ziheng. Handsome boy, don't listen to her nonsense. Whether a ripe peach is sweet or not, you can only know it by tasting it yourself. After saying that, she threw a coquettish glance at Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng smiled awkwardly and did not respond. It was almost 1 o'clock at this time, and Dong Qianqian organized a party and invited Li Ziheng and Anya to have lunch at a nearby restaurant. Of course, the person who paid in the end was her younger brother Dong Zhais. Dong Zhais had no dissatisfaction or complaints about this. After all, his sister really dared to beat him. Secondly, he also wanted to talk more with Li Ziheng about the details of the subsequent development of the economic development zone. Although he is a gangster, he also needs to eat and make money. If his sister hadn't invested in him and allowed him to open a brokerage company, allowing him to have a decent career, he and his brothers might have been left starving. Brother Hung, it's our first meeting, and I feel like we've known each other for a long time. I toast you with this cup. Let's make money together as brothers in the future. At the dinner table, Dong Zhais received a hint from his sister Dong Qianqian, so he toasted Li Ziheng glass after glass. Brother Hung, if there's anything I can do for you in the future, just let me know. As long as it's within my ability, I'll never refuse. This is a toast to you. Please do as you please. I'll drink it. Brother Hung, are you a brother? If you are, then do it. Brother Hung, listen to me. After the meal, Li Ziheng didn't eat much food, but drank a lot of wine. He didn't have a very good alcohol tolerance, but he wasn't bad either. After drinking 4 glasses of white wine in a row, he was a little tipsy and a little excited. This state is very strange. The mind is clear, but if you drink again, you'll have a blackout. Knowing his alcohol tolerance, Li Ziheng stopped drinking. Anya and Dong Qianqian had work to do in the afternoon, so they didn't drink. After eating and drinking, Anya suggested taking Li Ziheng back to the company. Maybe because he had drunk too much, Dong Zhais continued to talk to Li Ziheng. Dong Qianqian slapped her brother Dong Zhais on the back of the head and said, stop talking nonsense and send your sister Ya and brother-in-law off quickly. Dong Zhais giggled and accompanied his sister enthusiastically, sending Anya and Li Ziheng to the car. After the car drove away, Dong Zhai's turned to look at his sister and asked, "Sister, what do you mean by brother-in-law? Are sister Ya and brother Hung together? Or are you and brother Hung having an affair?" Dong Qianqian ignored her silly brother, but his words made her think of Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng is the most outstanding and most charming man she has ever met in all these years. Before today, her opinion of Li Ziheng was just that he was handsome, had good temperament, a good figure, and abdominal muscles. Although this kind of man looks invincible, he is just a vase at best. But Li Ziheng's performance in his brother's company just now made her realize that Li Ziheng was not only invincible in appearance, but also outstanding in inner qualities and abilities. It is said that serious men are the most handsome. They are handsome to begin with, and when they are serious, they are confident and handsome, which is simply fascinating. Alas, it's a pity that he is the man Xiaoya likes, otherwise, I really want to pursue him. Dong Qianqian sighed helplessly. His younger brother Dong Zhai said, "Sister, if you like her, go and fight for her. Even brothers should settle accounts. What's more, this is the man you've spent half your life with. I'm fighting for your sister. If it weren't for Xiaoya, your sister wouldn't have been able to graduate from college. You should be grateful and repay kindness. Don't you understand?" Dong Qianqian raised her hand and was ready to give her brother a loving lesson. But Dong Zhai seemed to be prepared. As soon as Dong Qianqian raised her hand, he ran away. Dong Qianqian laughed and cursed. "You little bastard, you're lucky you ran fast." It takes half an hour to drive from the economic development zone to Yunhai. On the way, Li Ziheng felt his stomach churning. He leaned his seat back, lay down on the passenger seat, and closed his eyes to rest. But as soon as he lay down, he immediately felt dizzy, and with the car shaking gently, he fell asleep in a short while. Anya was driving attentively, but her mind kept replaying the scene of Li Ziheng confidently talking about his future plans. Subconsciously, she glanced at Li Ziheng from the corner of her eye. Seeing that Li Ziheng seemed to be asleep, she called out softly, "Brother?" No response. Probably he really fell asleep. Anya drove the car to the parking lot downstairs of the company. She originally wanted to wake up Li Ziheng, but she couldn't bear to do it. Looking at Li Ziheng's handsome face as he was sleeping, Anya's heart was pounding and a bold idea came to her mind. She glanced around and made sure that there was no one in the underground parking lot. Then she unbuckled her seatbelt, leaned over, and kissed Li Ziheng on the corner of his lips. After the kiss, Anya turned sideways, supported her chin with her right hand, and gently stroked Li Ziheng's face with her left hand. "Whose family is this handsome man from? It has to be mine. Is that right, brother? If you don't say anything, I'll take that as your consent." Brother kiss. A red lip mark appeared on Li Ziheng's face. An hour later, Li Ziheng was awakened by the sound of a car horn. He sat up, rubbed his aching head, and turned to look at Anya beside him. "How long have I been asleep?" Anya stared at Li Ziheng and replied with a sly smile. "Not bad. Only an hour and a half, right?" Li Ziheng was stunned. "Why didn't you wake me up? I saw my brother was sleeping so soundly. I couldn't bear it." Anya's answer left Li Ziheng speechless. Pushing open the car door, Li Ziheng got out of the car. The two returned to the company and took Anya's exclusive elevator for the president to the floor where the marketing department was located. On the way back to the office, many employees in the marketing department stared at Li Ziheng with surprise. This made Li Ziheng a little puzzled, but he didn't ask any more questions. After returning to the office, Su Chuang came to me. "What's wrong?" Li Ziheng thought Su Chuang wanted to talk to him about something. But Su Chuang pointed at his own face and said, "Brother Hung, there are lipstick marks on your face." "What?" Li Ziheng was startled and quickly took out his mobile phone and turned on the camera function. After seeing this, Li Ziheng almost died on the spot. "Okay, I got it." Li Ziheng gritted his teeth and pretended to be calm and sent Su Chuang away. After quickly wiping off the lipstick marks on his face, Li Ziheng sent a Fishan message to Anya. "What's with the lipstick marks on my face? Did you do that? What are you talking about, brother? I don't understand. Stop pretending. It must be you." Brother said it was right, so I should take the blame, right? Do you know how embarrassed I was just now? Don't do this kind of thing again. My brother framed me. Well, I feel so bitter, but I want to tell you, I will dare to do it again in the future. Seeing Anya teasing him on Fishan, Li Ziheng felt helpless. "Put down your phone." Li Ziheng began to get busy with the follow-up work of the economic development zone. Before leaving Get Off Work, he made a follow-up plan, but there were still some details that needed to be improved. Because of lack of time, he put the plan on his desk and waited until tomorrow morning to optimize it. After get off work, Li Ziheng packed up his things and left the office. Just when most of the marketing department employees had left, Zhou Shuai took advantage of others not paying attention and quietly sneaked into Li Ziheng's office. This scene happened to be seen by Su Chuang, who had just finished his work and was about to leave. Chapter 59, He is the One Who Should Regret. Li Ziheng naturally didn't know what happened after he left the company. After get off work, he went downstairs immediately. He just stopped for a moment downstairs of the company. I thought Anya would also come to his place for dinner tonight, but after waiting for 5 minutes, I still didn't see Anya. Li Ziheng originally wanted to send a message to Anya to ask, but after changing his mind, he gave up the idea. In the past, Li Ziheng would definitely not think too much about it and would just send a Feishan message or make a phone call. But since his divorce from Jiang Wan, he realized that one should not be overly enthusiastic. Anya and he are just friends. Since they are friends, they should keep their distance and should not have too much unnecessary contact to avoid misunderstandings from the other party. Thinking of this, he turned around and strode towards the rental house. In the rental house, Jasmine had already prepared dinner. Compared to yesterday, she specially prepared an extra portion of food for one person today. Seeing that only Li Ziheng came back, Jasmine blinked her big watery eyes and asked curiously, "Brother, isn't Sister Anya coming over for dinner tonight?" "Shouldn't come." Li Ziheng responded with a smile. After changing into home slippers and washing their hands, Li Ziheng and Jasmine sat face to face at the dining table and enjoyed a delicious dinner. The atmosphere is very harmonious. Jasmine suddenly asked, "Brother, do you like Sister Anya?" This question was asked suddenly. Li Ziheng raised his eyes to look at Jasmine, puzzled. "Why are you asking this suddenly?" "I can see that Sister Anya has a crush on Brother, so I'm a little curious about what Brother thinks." Jasmine explained cautiously. When she asked this question, she was obviously a little nervous, and she would secretly glance at Li Ziheng's expression from time to time. "Your Sister Anya is very capable and has a nice personality. To be honest, I like her quite a bit." Li Ziheng answered without any hesitation. Upon hearing this, Jasmine's eyes dimmed and her spirit instantly weakened. In fact, before asking this question, she already had the answer in her heart. But even so, when she heard Li Ziheng's answer with her own ears, she still felt sad uncontrollably. A deep feeling of frustration filled her heart. A woman like Anya, who is rich, beautiful, and has a good figure, would be liked by any man. Li Ziheng is also a man, so he is no exception. Just when Jasmine was feeling uncomfortable, she suddenly heard Li Ziheng say calmly, "However, the liking I'm talking about may not be the same as what you understand. The liking I'm talking about is purely the kind of liking I have for my sister." Jasmine's originally depressed mood immediately turned from cloudy to sunny after hearing this. "Brother, you obviously have needs in that area. Why don't you consider having a relationship and finding a girlfriend?" Thinking of what happened when she woke up this morning, Jasmine's pretty face flushed slightly, but she still plucked up the courage and stared at Li Ziheng with curious eyes. Li Ziheng pretended to be calm, but a slightly embarrassed expression appeared on his face. "I just went through an unhappy marriage and am still in the cooling-off period for my divorce. As for relationships, I don't plan to consider it right now." Li Ziheng did not hide anything and expressed his inner thoughts. After 5 years of hard work, he was met with contempt and betrayal from his wife. This marriage dealt him a great blow. He has changed and no longer easily believes in so-called love. This is also the reason why Anya had expressed her feelings to him before, but Li Ziheng rejected her without hesitation. Thinking of this, Li Ziheng couldn't help but think of Song Yi again. During the period after the divorce, Anya's company gave him some comfort, but it was actually Song Yi who made him completely let go of Jiangwan. Song Yi has a quirky personality and is enthusiastic and generous in her work. When he is with Song Yi, he can always temporarily forget about Jiangwan. More importantly, Song Yi is his first woman. Thinking of the last time he had sex with Song Yi after drinking, Li Ziheng felt hot all over. Although he has lived abroad most of the time, as a dragon, he is still relatively traditional at heart. Since that kind of thing happened, and it was also Song Yi's first time, Li Ziheng naturally wanted to be responsible for Song Yi. Of course, this is only part of the reason. The more important reason is that Song Yi once said that she has always liked Li Ziheng. Since she also likes him, Li Ziheng should be more responsible for her. But after he made the decision, Song Yi blocked him for unknown reasons. When he thought of this, Li Ziheng felt depressed. He thought Song Yi was playing with his feelings, or maybe after getting her, she discovered that he, Li Ziheng, was just as so she felt bored and didn't want to continue. That's why he appeared in the bar and met Jasmine. Now he no longer believes that there is pure love in this world. There are three kinds of relationships between men and women. 1. A simple friend of the opposite sex who has a sense of boundaries. 2. A closer relationship between siblings or sisters. 3. To solve the interest relationship of physiological needs. As for the so-called opposite-sex besties like Jiang Wan and Cheng Hao, that is pure nonsense. There are no pure opposite-sex besties between men and women. It's just that you understand that my purpose is not pure, and I understand your reluctance to accept. Li Ziheng is very disgusted by this kind of dirty relationship between opposite-sex best friends. To use a phrase from the internet, it's both a right and a wrong. Extremely disgusting. Brother, you are a good person. You deserve a sincere and true love. Jasmine was not aware of Li Ziheng's divorce. Jasmine was still a little surprised when she suddenly learned that Li Ziheng was divorced. She was very curious. Why would a woman be willing to divorce a good man like Li Ziheng? If it were her, she would definitely protect Li Ziheng well and make him belong only to her. She would even want to stick to him 24 hours a day and occupy him completely. Feelings are selfish. When you truly fall in love with someone, you will pay special attention to everything about him, especially his relationships and contacts with other opposite sexes. Even if he looks at another girl for a second, you will feel jealous and aggrieved. This is not being unreasonable, but the possessiveness that comes from liking someone to the extreme. The more you like someone, the stronger your desire to possess him or her becomes. Jealousy is the most common proof. Jasmine stared into Li Ziheng's eyes, her eyes full of heartache. Feeling that something was wrong in the atmosphere, Li Ziheng coughed dryly and quickly ended the topic. I'm done eating. Go change your clothes first. We'll go out for a run later to help digest the food. Li Ziheng quickly shoveled the food in the bowl into his mouth, then put down his bowl and chopsticks and returned to his room. Jasmine hummed, with a genuinely happy smile on her face. At the same time, Jiang family, the large flat where my former father-in-law and mother-in-law lived. Since her divorce from Li Ziheng and getting tired of eating out, Jiang Wan would go back to her parents' house for meals every now and then. After dinner, Mother Lu Confronting took Jiang Wan to clean the table and asked her to wash the dishes. Jiang Wan kept complaining, but still went into the kitchen obediently. Before getting married, she helped her mother with housework, but after getting married, she became like a little princess, not doing any housework, let alone buying groceries or cooking. She had never even washed dishes or swept the floor. Li Ziheng was responsible for all the household affairs alone, and her underwear was also washed by hand by Li Ziheng. Now that Li Ziheng is gone, her home is a mess and she hires a cleaning lady to do a thorough cleaning every week. But even once a week, she felt that the environment at home was completely different from before. No one cared when the ground was dirty, no one took out the garbage when it was full, and even when she was thirsty and hungry, no one would cook her something delicious or squeeze juice for her to drink. Every time at this time, she would miss the time when Li Ziheng was still at home. It was for this reason that she kept fantasizing that one day Li Ziheng would change his mind and come back to her to get back together. Jiang Wan was busy washing dishes when her mother Lu Fangding came into the kitchen. While cleaning the kitchen, she asked, Waner, are you and Cheng Hao together? Not yet. Jiang Wan shook her head. Lu Fangding sighed softly and said, Then do you think that if you were with Cheng Hao, he would be able to take care of you, accommodate you, and tolerate you like Ziheng did? Jiang Wan's face changed, and she said unhappily, Mom, don't mention Li Ziheng. I have no feelings for him anymore. I have already promised your father that I will not interfere in your affairs with Ziheng anymore. Whatever happens to you in the future is your own choice. Lu Fangting said earnestly. But as a mother, I still want to remind you that Ziheng is a very good man. Your father and Cheng Hao are far inferior to him. When you realize this, you may not have another chance. Think carefully and don't do anything that will make you regret for the rest of your life. After saying that, Lu Fangting took off her apron and walked out of the kitchen. Only her daughter Jiang Wan was left in the kitchen, washing dishes silently. Regret? Why should I regret? He is the one who should regret. Jiang Wan thought so in her heart, and at the same time, she was looking forward to the scene where Li Ziheng would kneel down and beg her after Jiang family became successful in her hands. She wanted to let Li Ziheng know what he, Li Ziheng, had missed after leaving her. Chapter 60. Your house was robbed. 10 minutes later, Jasmine tied her long hair into a ponytail. She changed into a white belly-bearing t-shirt, a pair of black tight sweatpants, and a pair of white running shoes. With this outfit, she exuded a youthful aura. Li Ziheng took her for a walk in the park near the community for half an hour, and then jogged for an hour. It was still summer and the city was on a river, so the weather was extremely hot and humid even at night. By the time they finished running, both of them were sweating profusely. On the way back, Jasmine went to a convenience store outside the community and bought a bag of popsicles. If you eat ice right after exercise, you'll get a stomachache, Li Ziheng kindly reminded. Jasmine stuck out her tongue at him playfully and said softly in a flattering voice, "Brother, I'm greedy, so I'll just eat it this time, okay? I swear, I won't do it again." As she spoke, Jasmine held up 3 fingers and pretended to swear. "Remember to drink some hot water when you get back." Looking at Jasmine's flattering and greedy look, Li Ziheng smiled indulgently and did not stop her. Jasmine opened the bag and took out the popsicle. The popsicle consisted of 2 connected sticks, one red and one yellow. Jasmine handed the red one to Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng wanted to refuse, but he heard Jasmine say, "Brother, it's okay to eat one, but if you eat 2, I might really have a stomachache when I go back. So you still buy it?" Li Ziheng was speechless for a while. "Isn't this just greedy?" Jasmine smiled and blinked. "When I was a kid, I envied those kids who could eat popsicles in the middle of summer. They ate popsicles like this at the time. At that time, I kept thinking about what the popsicle tasted like, whether it was sweet, and whether it was delicious. Now that I have the chance, I want to give it a try." After saying that, Jasmine put the popsicle into her mouth, and her already watery and spiritual eyes lit up instantly. It's so sweet, brother. Come and try it. It's really delicious." Jasmine's expression is very cute. Her bright eyes stared straight at Li Ziheng, expecting Li Ziheng to try it too. Li Ziheng did not refuse and put the popsicle into his mouth. It was just an ordinary popsicle, even a little sweet, but facing Jasmine's expectant eyes, Li Ziheng said, "Well, it's really good." "Yeah, I told you it was delicious." Hearing the answer she wanted, a smile suddenly appeared on Jasmine's pretty face. Jasmine had only lived with him for a few days, but her spirits and energy were obviously much better. Her skin is whiter than before, but she is still a little thin. On the way back, Li Ziheng was already thinking about preparing nutritious meals based on Jasmine's condition. Of course, he was only responsible for preparing the daily meal menu, but it was Jasmine who was responsible for cooking the food. The two returned to the rental house. As there was only one bathroom, Li Ziheng politely asked Jasmine to wash up first. When Jasmine came out after washing up, he found that her face was a little red and one of her hands was behind her back. Li Ziheng didn't think much about it. He took his change of pajamas and went into the bathroom. The fragrance of shower gel still lingers in the bathroom, but in this fresh fragrance, there is also a barely perceptible smell of blood. After Li Ziheng finished washing up, he went to the kitchen to pour a glass of water. As soon as I walked out of the kitchen, I saw Jasmine open the door and walk in from outside. "Where have you been?" Li Ziheng drank a glass of water and stared suspiciously at the small black shopping bag in Jasmine's hand. "No, I just went out to buy some snacks." Jasmine blushed and quickly went back to her room. Li Ziheng found it a little funny. How could buying snacks be like stealing and still make him feel guilty? Is it possible that I can restrain her from being greedy? Li Ziheng suddenly thought of what happened to Jasmine just now when she bought popsicles. Jasmine is a poor girl. Her family environment is not very good, and her parents favor boys over girls. Therefore, her childhood is not happy or joyful. Thinking of this, Li Ziheng returned to the room, picked up his mobile phone, and made a purchase online. He purchased some ice cream, popsicles, and cones, and then some snacks that are currently popular. Of course, when purchasing, he would specifically study the ingredient list and eliminate anything that is unhealthy or unhygienic. 30 minutes after I placed the order, the courier rang the doorbell. Li Ziheng put the ice cream and other desserts that needed to be frozen into the refrigerator, and then knocked on Jasmine's door with the shopping bag. After a while, Jasmine opened the door, but she looked a little pale and listless. Seeing that Jasmine's face was a little pale, Li Ziheng frowned slightly and asked with concern, "You don't look very well. Are you feeling unwell?" I'm fine." Jasmine forced a smile and shook her head. Hearing this, although Li Ziheng was a little worried, he didn't say much. He handed over the shopping bag in his hand. "I just bought some snacks. If you feel hungry, you can eat some, but don't eat too much." Snacks have little nutrition and cannot replace meals. Thank you, brother. Jasmine was stunned for a moment, and then her eyes turned red. She reached out to take the shopping bag handed to her by Li Ziheng and suddenly covered her lower abdomen with her hands. Cough! Li Ziheng knew Jasmine's condition at a glance. He looked away awkwardly and asked tentatively, Dysmenorrhea? Jasmine, whose face was originally a little pale, blushed immediately after hearing what Li Ziheng said. She nodded honestly, but she was a little curious in her heart as to how her brother knew such things. But then I thought, my brother had been married before, and since he lived with his wife, it was not surprising that he knew these things. You go ahead and do your work. I'll go make you a bowl of brown sugar water. Li Ziheng turned and walked towards the kitchen. Jasmine stood at the door, feeling warm in her heart. After a while, Li Ziheng brought her the cooked brown sugar water. There is a poached egg in the steaming brown sugar water. Li Ziheng used to cook it for Jiangwan during her period. At that time, Jiangwan was still disgusted and complained that Li Ziheng always cooked this. Couldn't he try something different? Thank you, brother. Looking at the egg in brown sugar water cooked by Li Ziheng himself, Jasmine's eyes were full of gratitude. Go to bed early tonight. Tell me if you feel uncomfortable. After all, it was a girl's room. Li Ziheng put the egg in brown sugar water on the computer desk and turned around and walked out of the room. Little did they know that all of this was seen by the fans who were watching the live broadcast. For a while, the live broadcast room was filled with comments like crazy. The anchor's brother is so warm. I want it too. I've confirmed through eye contact that he's a good brother who can take care of girls. Please give me his contact information. Anchor, are you in need of a sister-in-law? Host, where do you live? Give me your address. By the way, please tell me what color sack my husband likes. Looking at the frantically updated comments in the live broadcast room, Jasmine stuck out her tongue and snorted. My brother is mine. Don't even think about snatching him away. The truth is out. The anchor and my brother are not related by blood. They are just boyfriends. It's sour. The anchor's brother is so handsome. He looks exactly like my future husband. You guys can take the anchor's brother away and leave the anchor to me. You are a bunch of unruly people. You dare to covet my beloved concubine? Jasmine, I order you to send my beloved concubine back immediately. I want to favor her tonight. The fans were in high spirits, and the atmosphere in the live broadcast room was quite lively. At the same time, Dong Qianqian, who was taking a bath and checking the beautiful live broadcasts of the company's beauty girls one by one, happened to watch Jasmine's live broadcast. Originally, she wanted to watch Jasmine's live broadcast, then analyze it and formulate the content direction of subsequent live broadcasts. But she never expected that before she finished watching the live broadcast, she saw a scene that made her jaw drop. You are such a good man, Li Ziheng. You are eating from the bowl and looking at the pot. Ugh, you scumbag! Dong Qianqian was very angry. But she was not angry at Jasmine, but at Li Ziheng's behavior of playing both sides. As Anya's sister, she naturally didn't want to see Li Ziheng being ambiguous with other women. This is a blasphemy against feelings, and even more so an act of infidelity to her good sister Anya. At that moment, she exited the live broadcast room and called her good sister Anya. But the call was hung up as soon as it was connected. Dong Qianqian looked unhappy. Her home had been stolen, and she was still busy working. At that moment, Dong Qianqian directly started the phone bombing mode. On the other side, the Riverside Villa, Anya, wearing a business suit, sat upright on the sofa and had a video call with the super boss of the headquarters company. Is Yunhai's transformation plan a decision you made alone? No, it was a decision made by Master Ziheng and I together. Okay, go ahead and do it. The headquarters will provide all the resources to help Yunhai complete the transformation. Okay, thank you, boss. Anya, you are an ambitious woman with corresponding abilities. I hope that your ambitions and abilities will not be limited to your career. Good. Anya's heart paused for a beat, then began beating wildly. Career and love are equally important. The boss told her not to focus her ambition and ability only on her career, which was a reminder for her to be bolder and pursue the man who was out of her reach. But for her now, the only man in Yunxing who is out of her reach is Li Ziheng. The boss was hinting to her to feel free and bold in pursuing Li Ziheng. I look forward to your subsequent performance. I hope you won't disappoint me. After saying this, the boss hung up the video call. When the video ended, Anya jumped up from the sofa and cheered. She has always had a good impression of Li Ziheng and has always wanted to have a passionate love affair with Li Ziheng. But Li Ziheng kept refusing. At the same time, She was also worried that the headquarters would be disgusted with her after they found out. They misunderstood her as a woman who would do anything to get to the top. Now that the headquarters has given clear hints, she has no worries. Master, my dear brother, you are done. You are in big trouble. Anya looked excited. In my mind, I began to look forward to the happy life after falling in love with Li Ziheng. But at this moment, Dong Qianqian called again. During the video call just now, she had been hanging up Dong Qianqian's phone. Now that the video call ended, she pressed the answer button. You stupid woman, you're busy working all day long. Do you know that while you were busy working, your home was being robbed by other women? Chapter 61. We are both sisters. Why can she kiss you? Dong Qianqian's phone call made Anya, who was originally in a good mood, silent in an instant. By the time she hung up the phone, the smile on Anya's face had disappeared. She slumped down on the sofa, her mind reverberating with the words her best friend Dong Qianqian had just said. I treat her as my sister now. But what about in the future? Do you know what it means to fall in love over time? You idiotic woman. Where is your ruthlessness at work? How come you are like a piece of trash when it comes to picking up men? Okay, go ahead and help them explain. Who knows? While you're explaining, they might already be making out sweetly. Every word Dong Qianqian said was heartbreaking. Although Anya strongly denied it, she said she believed in Li Ziheng's character. But deep down, she was also a little worried. Just as Dong Qianqian said, it doesn't matter now, but what about in the future? Humans are emotional animals, and there is a very high possibility that Li Ziheng will fall in love with Jasmine over time. What's more, even if Li Ziheng didn't have that idea, what about Jasmine? The first time she went to Li Ziheng's rental house to eat, Jasmine had already shown her possessiveness of Li Ziheng. That was a declaration of sovereignty. That was an action telling her that Li Ziheng was her man. After a brief period of emo, Anya quickly adjusted her mentality. Humph, little vixen. No matter how powerful your background is, don't even think about snatching a man from my sister. 10 o'clock at night. Jasmine turned off the live broadcast and walked out of the room with a bowl in her hand. However, as soon as I walked out of the room, I saw Li Ziheng sitting on the sofa in the living room looking at data on his mobile phone. Put it in the kitchen. I'll wash it later. Li Ziheng looked back at her, then continued to optimize the plan he had made in the afternoon on his mobile phone. Jasmine subconsciously replied, Brother, how can I let you do this? We agreed before that I can do it. It's okay. You're in a special period. I'll do the housework these days. After being interrupted like this, Li Ziheng lost the motivation to continue working. He simply stood up and took the bowl from Jasmine's hand. Go to bed early. After saying that, Li Ziheng turned and went into the kitchen. After a while, the sound of running water could be heard from the kitchen. When Li Ziheng washed the bowl and spoon, Jasmine was no longer in the living room. Without thinking much, Li Ziheng returned to his room. As soon as I entered the room, I smelled a faint fragrance in the air that only girls have. He looked towards the large white bed, and sure enough, Jasmine was lying on her side with her back to him. Li Ziheng walked to the bed, reached out to pat Jasmine's shoulder, and asked her to go back to her room. But before his hand touched Jasmine, he heard Jasmine lower her voice and timidly said, Brother, can you rub my belly for me? It hurts a little. Li Ziheng hesitated. After a brief ideological struggle, he hummed. After a while, Jasmine lay on her side in Li Ziheng's arms, and Li Ziheng gently rubbed Jasmine's lower abdomen with one hand. As a warmth came from her lower abdomen, Jasmine's pain was obviously relieved. After a while, she fell asleep comfortably. Jasmine, Li Ziheng called out softly, but Jasmine didn't respond. Well, Li Ziheng sighed helplessly, covered her with a blanket, then turned around, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. Little did he know that when he turned around, the corners of Jasmine's lips quietly drew a barely perceptible curve. She was pretending to be asleep. She wanted to stay in Li Ziheng's room. She liked staying with Li Ziheng. Even if they just slept in the same bed and did nothing, she felt at ease and safe. This feeling was something she had never experienced before, and she craved it and wanted it to last forever. Just like that, with selfish thoughts in mind, she gradually fell asleep. The next morning, Jasmine woke up early, but what she didn't expect was that Li Ziheng woke up even earlier than her. I originally thought that Li Ziheng got up so early because there was something going on at the company and he had to go there early to deal with it. But when she finished washing up and walked out of the room, she saw Li Ziheng busy in the kitchen. Elder brother, Jasmine called out softly. Hearing the voice, Li Ziheng turned around and smiled at her. Sit down for a while. Breakfast will be ready soon. After saying this, Li Ziheng turned off the gas stove, took out 2 noodle bowls from the cupboard, and added 2 bowls of steaming chicken noodle soup. When the chicken noodle soup was served, Jasmine sniffed and smiled sweetly. Brother's noodles smell so good. They look delicious. I cooked the chicken soup an hour in advance and used it to cook the noodles. After you finish eating the noodles, remember to drink the soup as well. Li Ziheng smila. Hearing this, Jasmine's heart suddenly felt warm. Did brother get up more than an hour earlier just to take care of her? Just to make chicken soup for her? Thank you, brother. The corners of Jasmine's eyes turned red. She picked up the chopsticks and started eating in small bites. After breakfast, Li Ziheng began to clean up the dishes in the kitchen. After everything was packed up, the two left the rental house together. Li Ziheng has to go to work at the company, and Jasmine has to go to school. After leaving the community, Li Ziheng has to walk to the left, while the direction of Jasmine's school is on the right. Brother, it's great to have you. Before they parted, Jasmine suddenly walked quickly to Li Ziheng's side, stood on tiptoe, and kissed Li Ziheng on the cheek. Her movements were so fast that Li Ziheng had no time to react. By the time Li Ziheng reacted, Jasmine had already run away with a red face. This little girl. Li Ziheng touched the place where he had just been kissed and laughed to himself. Beep! Just at this moment, a car horn suddenly sounded from the side of the road. Li Ziheng looked in the direction of the sound and saw a red Ferrari supercar parked at the entrance of the community. The car had been there just now, but it had not been started, so Li Ziheng thought there was no one in the car. When the horn sounded, Li Ziheng noticed that there was a person sitting in the cab. The car window rolled down, and Anya's delicate face appeared in Li Ziheng's sight. Why are you here? Li Ziheng walked over with a look of surprise on his face. Of course I'm waiting for you. Get in the car. Anya's face looked a little bad, and her tone was cold when she spoke, as if she was angry. Li Ziheng smiled and said, No need, right? It only takes 10 minutes to walk from here to the company. Oh, stop talking nonsense and get in the car? Anya looked a little impatient. Li Ziheng touched his nose, somewhat confused. She's so angry so early in the morning. Could it be that she's having her period? Of course, he only complained in his mind and didn't say it out loud, otherwise Anya might get angry again. After getting in the car, Li Ziheng was about to fasten his seatbelt when Anya suddenly stepped on the accelerator. The car accelerated suddenly, and Li Ziheng was caught off guard and got startled. What's wrong with you so early in the morning? Li Ziheng's heart was pounding. He was really scared. Anya slowed down the car, turned around, and stared at Li Ziheng with a wronged expression. Yes, I am crazy. Why can she kiss you, but I can't, even though we are both sisters? When she said this, her eyes were full of resentment as she stared at Li Ziheng. Chapter 62. Raising an army to question the culprit and setting up a trap. Li Ziheng was a little overwhelmed by this sudden sentence. After a long silence, Li Ziheng sighed and said, Don't make a fuss. I just treat her as my sister. Anya was obviously not satisfied with Li Ziheng's answer. She said stubbornly, You said before that you treat me as your sister, so can I kiss you too? Li Ziheng frowned slightly and was speechless. Seeing that Li Ziheng remained silent, Anya became more and more annoyed. She opened the in-car music app, quickly searched for a song, and pressed the play button. The next second, a song by a very famous online singer started playing in the car. She's just my sister. My sister said that purple has a very charming feel. Listening to the lyrics, Li Ziheng's eyes twitched. He felt that Anya did it on purpose, but he had no evidence, so he could only listen quietly. Before the song was finished, the car had already driven into the underground parking lot under the Yunhai Company. After getting off the car, neither of them spoke, but walked side by side towards the elevator in silence. After entering the elevator, Li Ziheng began to think about his work this morning. If everything goes smoothly, the plan for the Economic Development Zone can be optimized in the morning, and the plan can be submitted to Manager Liu for review in the afternoon. Just as he was thinking about it, Anya suddenly grabbed his arm, then exerted force and pressed him into the corner. Before Li Ziheng could react, Anya grabbed his chin and kissed him aggressively. Li Ziheng's eyes widened, and his face was filled with shock. The kiss was not very intense, but Li Ziheng pushed Anya away as soon as he reacted. What are you doing? Li Ziheng wiped the corner of his lips, his face full of anger. Anya had a triumphant smile on her lips. What? I just did what a sister can do, brother. You won't be angry, right? You are kidding. Jasmine kissed her face, but you kissed. Before Li Ziheng could finish his words, the elevator door opened with a ding. Hearing the footsteps, Li Ziheng swallowed back what he was about to say. He glared at Anya, then quickly walked out of the elevator. As the elevator door was about to close, Anya tilted her head and the smile on her face became more charming. After returning to the office, Li Ziheng still couldn't calm down for a long time. First it was Song Yi, then Jasmine, and now Anya. Why is it that every woman around him wants to take advantage of him? Putting these messy thoughts aside for the time being, Li Ziheng picked up the data on his desk that had not been completed yesterday and began to optimize it. But after opening the file, Li Ziheng was stunned. The information is still the same as yesterday, but the content is somewhat different from what I prepared yesterday. Although there are still some issues that have not been optimized in the plan formulated yesterday, there are almost no problems with the general direction and important details. But the information we have now is not only wrong in the general direction, but even the important details are wrong. Li Ziheng was certain that this information must have been tampered with by someone. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, there was a knock on the office door. Then, Manager Liu, with a dark complexion, walked in angrily with a document in hand. Pa! A document was slammed heavily on Li Ziheng's desk. Manager Liu said sternly, "Deputy Manager Li, is this the result of your work during this period? What is Manager Liu saying? Why can't I understand?" Li Ziheng looked confused, but he still opened the document that Manager Liu threw to him, and it turned out to be a plan for the Economic Development Zone project. And the content was exactly the same as the one he had just read. But he remembered very clearly that he did not give this plan to Manager Liu, but at this time, a backup of this plan appeared in Manager Liu's hands. The project in the Economic Development Zone is very difficult. To be honest, I didn't expect you to complete it. I just gave it to you with a try. But the plan and proposal you gave me are too bad. Manager Liu's attitude was very bad. She tapped the table and said, "Deputy Manager Li, if your ability is limited to this level, I suggest you talk to General Manager and go to other departments. If a soldier is incompetent, the general will be incompetent too. Even the most powerful team needs a capable person to lead it, and you obviously don't have this ability. For the position of Deputy Manager of the Marketing Department, I will recommend Zhou Shuai, a team leader, to General Manager. He is capable enough for this position." Manager Liu's meaning is very clear. She wanted Li Ziheng to resign from the position of Deputy Manager and give the position to Zhou Shuai. After hearing this, even if Li Ziheng was slow to react, he guessed that Zhou Shuai had tricked him. If I guessed correctly, Zhou Shuai had tampered with my plan, and the plan in Manager Liu's hand was also written by Zhou Shuai. Thinking of this, Li Ziheng's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. Yunhai is his mother's branch company and his family's business. He will never allow a despicable person like Zhou Shuai to exist in the company. Manager Liu, don't worry. I will give you a satisfactory solution to this matter. But before that, I need to ask Mr. N to come over. Li Ziheng's voice was a little cold. Manager Liu didn't understand what Li Ziheng meant. She thought Li Ziheng wanted to use his connections to ask Anya to come and support him. Ha! Deputy Manager Li, it seems that you have a special relationship with President N, but let me tell you, even if President N comes forward, the marketing department can't accommodate a big Buddha like you. Don't worry, I have already understood the situation in the marketing department. No matter what the result is today, I will resign from the position of Deputy Manager of the marketing department. Li Ziheng did not argue with Manager Liu because there was no need. As far as he is concerned, although Manager Liu was taken advantage of, this does not mean that he can deny Manager Liu's workability. As a person in power, he still understands the principle of knowing how to use people well. Li Ziheng sent a message to Anya, asking her to come to the marketing department. While waiting for Anya to arrive, Li Ziheng walked out of the office and looked directly at Zhou Shuai's workstation. As if sensing Li Ziheng's gaze, Zhou Shuai turned around and looked over. The two looked at each other. Zhou Shuai raised his eyebrows at him and smiled provocatively. "It's really you." This action has confirmed that all of this was done by Zhou Shuai. Just when Zhou Shuai was secretly feeling proud and thinking that Li Ziheng was about to be kicked out of the marketing department, President Anya rushed over with her secretary. "What's going on?" Anya frowned slightly, with a hint of doubt in her eyes. The secretary behind him also had a puzzled expression on his face. Anya's appearance caused the marketing department staff to stop their work, and everyone's eyes were focused on Anya. Everyone was very curious about the purpose of Anya, the big boss, coming to the marketing department. Li Ziheng said expressionlessly, "My internship here is enough, and it's time to replace the deputy manager of the marketing department." Boom! When these words were spoken, all the employees in the marketing department were shocked. What's going on? What happened? What does Deputy Manager Lee mean by this? Is he resigning voluntarily? Practice? What is his internship? Except for Zhou Shuai, everyone's face was filled with shock and confusion. In contrast, Zhou Shuai's expression was very calm, as if he had anticipated this scene. It's a foolish dream for a rookie in the workplace to think that he can secure the position of deputy manager of the marketing department by relying on his connections. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and he was secretly proud of himself. At this time, Manager Liu also spoke up. Bosson, I also think that Li Ziheng is not capable enough to be the deputy manager of the marketing department. I also asked Boss and to dismiss Li Ziheng from his position. In addition, I recommend Zhou Shuai, the leader of the first team of the marketing department, as the deputy manager. Given Zhou Shuai's experience and workability, I think he is qualified for the position of deputy manager of the marketing department. Manager Liu's words immediately caused the marketing department to go crazy again. _X0007_. Chapter 63. Confusion of right and wrong. Ganging up to throw dirty water. As members of the marketing department, everyone is very clear about Manager Liu's character. She is a very capable person at work, and she does not tolerate any flaws in her work. The fact that she could say this must mean that Li Ziheng had made a fatal mistake at work. Otherwise, Manager Liu would not have said these words openly in front of President and everyone else. What happened? Anya frowned. She still didn't understand what was going on. Bosson, this is the plan and specific implementation plan for the Economic Development Zone, made by Deputy Manager Lee. You will understand it after reading it. Manager Liu didn't waste any time and directly handed the tampered document to Anya. Anya took it suspiciously, opened it and took a look. Her face suddenly turned cold. This plan is so poorly done with so many problems, big and small. Even a newcomer in the workplace cannot do such a bad job. She was a little angry, but the reason why she was angry was not the plan, but that someone in Yunhai used despicable means to frame Li Ziheng. She had some understanding of Li Ziheng's abilities. This plan could not possibly have been written by Li Ziheng. It was obvious that someone was plotting against him. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Anya couldn't openly show partiality, so she had to look at Li Ziheng and asked, Deputy Manager Li, did you make this plan? I made this plan. Li Ziheng's answer made Anya a little confused. It was obviously not the case, so why did he admit it? Could it really be Li Ziheng who did it? This shouldn't be the case. If it was done by Li Ziheng, the plan wouldn't be so bad. Bosson, since he has admitted it, I think you should also express your opinion. The marketing department I am in charge of does not support idlers, let alone useless people. Manager Liu's tough attitude puts pressure on Anya. As a veteran of the company, Manager Liu was there when Yunhai was founded. Manager Liu has made great contributions to Yunhai's success today. Her personality has not changed since she first entered Yunhai. 1 is 1 and 2 is 2. There is no mercy at work. Everything is based on the company's development and future. When it comes to managing subordinates, she has only one philosophy. If they are capable, they will be promoted. If they are not, they will be fired. And now, in her mind, Li Ziheng is just a useless person with no ability. There is only one way to deal with such a person, and that is to get out. Faced with the pressure from Manager Liu, Anya also felt a headache, even though Li Ziheng was the general manager and the young master. But Manager Liu is also very important to the company. She controls the resources of many important customers. If she leaves Yunhai, it will be a huge loss for Yunhai. Anya knew Manager Liu's temper too well. The fact that she said this in public made her attitude clear. Either Li Ziheng left the marketing department or she left. She had no other choice. Just when Anya was having a headache and didn't know how to solve this problem, Li Ziheng suddenly said, I admit that I made this plan, but the important details and general direction were tampered with, and I didn't give the plan to Manager Liu. Li Ziheng looked at Manager Liu and asked, May I ask, Manager Liu, who gave you this plan? At this point, Deputy Manager Li still wants to shirk responsibility. Manager Liu had a cold expression on his face, and his eyes were full of disgust as he looked at Li Ziheng. But because Anya was still there, she still answered Li Ziheng's question. When I first arrived at the company, this plan was already on my desk. So, Manager Liu doesn't know who put the plan on your desk? Li Ziheng frowned slightly and glanced at Zhou Shuai, who had a smug look on his face. Zhou Shuai is not stupid, but unfortunately he doesn't use his intelligence at work, but instead uses it in intrigue. Now that things have come to this, no matter how much I explain, I don't think Manager Lu will believe it. It just so happens that I have a backup of the plan I made yesterday afternoon on my phone. Manager Lu, why don't you take a look at it first? Li Ziheng took out his mobile phone, opened the electronic document of the backup plan, and handed it to Manager Lu. Manager Lu snorted. She thought Li Ziheng was still making unnecessary excuses. But after reading the electronic documents backed up in Li Ziheng's mobile phone, she was stunned. This plan is perfect. Although there are some minor details, the overall plan and direction are almost impeccable. Even if she did it herself, she couldn't achieve this level. She was a little unwilling to give up, so she exited the document and looked at the time when the document was created. It was 3 minutes after 5 yesterday afternoon. Manager Lu was dumbfounded. She was a little confused and didn't know what was going on. Manager Lu, you have seen my plan. Although it is somewhat similar to the one you have, the overall direction and details are completely different. Li Ziheng took the phone back and continued to explain. Now, can you believe that the plan in your hand has been tampered with? Manager Lu did not respond, which was considered as his agreement. Li Ziheng turned and looked at Zhou Shuai. Zhou Shuai's face looked very ugly at this time. He gritted his teeth and looked unwilling. But when Li Ziheng looked at him, his expression immediately changed, and he put on an expression of a bystander watching a show. Li Ziheng's eyes turned cold, and he asked loudly, Team Leader Zhou, how do you plan to explain this matter? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's eyes turned to Zhou Shuai. Even Anya, her secretary, and Manager Lu from the marketing department turned their eyes to Zhou Shuai. Zhou Shuai's face turned pale, and he pretended to be annoyed and asked back, Deputy Manager Li, what do you mean by this? Do you think I did all this? You should have evidence when speaking. Don't slander me and destroy my innocence. Evidence? Li Ziheng smiled. This document has only been touched by me, Mr. In, and Manager Lu. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be a fourth person's fingerprint on it. Team Leader Zhou, what do you think? As soon as Li Ziheng finished speaking, Zhou Shuai's face suddenly changed. He panicked. But at this moment, he suddenly had an idea and slapped his forehead and said, Oh, I almost forgot. When I got off work yesterday, Deputy Manager Li, didn't you ask me to help you deliver a document to Manager Lu's office? As he said this, his face suddenly changed and he said angrily, I understand, Deputy Manager Li, you directed and acted all this yourself, right? I know you have something against me, but you wouldn't resort to such dirty tricks to frame me, right? As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar at the scene. At this time, some members of Group 1 also stood up to testify for Zhou Shuai. Yes, I saw it too. When everyone left work yesterday, it was Deputy Manager Li who called Team Leader Zhou to the office. Yes. When Team Leader Zhou came out, he was holding a document in his hand. I saw it with my own eyes. That's true. I was just getting off work and passed by Team Leader Zhou. Several colleagues who were on good terms with Zhou Shuai started to talk one after another, throwing dirty water on Li Ziheng. Li Ziheng remembered these people. Before, they were the ones who surrounded Zhou Shuai downstairs in the company and said bad things about him. Manager Lu frowned and stared at Li Ziheng with a questioning look and asked, Deputy Manager Li, is what they said true? Li Ziheng asked back. If I say no, will Manager Lu believe me or them? Manager Lu was speechless. After all, Zhou Shuai and others are old employees of the marketing department. If she were asked to choose, she would naturally choose to trust Zhou Shuai and others. Forget it, the truth is not important anymore. Today, they must be fired. Seeing this, Li Ziheng also guessed what Manager Lu was thinking. But since he had made the decision, he would never let Zhou Shuai and others go. This kind of black sheep must not be allowed to stay in Yunhai. Zhou Shuai and others' faces changed slightly, and they all looked at Manager Lu for help. Manager Lu frowned. Deputy Manager Li, if you want to fire an employee, you must have a good reason. Manager Lu wants a reason, right? Then I'll tell you the reason. Yunhai, I have a final say. Is this reason enough? Li Ziheng didn't want to explain and was ready to reveal his identity directly. As the general manager of Yunhai, he could fire Zhou Shuai and others with just one word. Why would he need to frame them? Manager Lu's face darkened and he scolded. Deputy Manager Li, you are too arrogant. Mr. Iniz, Manager Lu, President In, I have evidence that they are lying. At this moment, the intern Su Chuang, who had been watching without saying anything, stood up, took out his mobile phone, and opened a video in the album. Chapter 64 Li Ziheng is ready to take over Yunhai. The mobile phone was delivered to Anya and manager Liu. In the video recording, Zhou Shuai sneaked into Li Ziheng's office. However, in the huge office area of the marketing department, there was no sign of those people who had just testified for Zhou Shuai. As the video plays, the truth becomes clear. Anya's face looked a little cold, and manager Liu's face was even more gloomy and terrifying. The two of them looked at the person who planned all this. Zhou Shuai was sweating profusely, and his eyes were evasive, not daring to look at Anya and manager Liu. Zhou Shuai, you are fired. And all of you pack up and get out. Anya was angry. Her face was frighteningly cold, and the look she gave Zhou Shuai and the others was as if she wanted to tear them apart alive. Faced with the furious Anya, Zhou Shuai and others were speechless. They didn't expect that at the critical moment, Su Chuang would actually stand up and even take a video. Su Chuang, you wait for me.